In the quiet and serious atmosphere of the Awakening Square, a voice echoed across the space, clear and formal, announcing the start of the initiation ceremony. Everyone was called up in turn to approach the Awakening Steel and begin the ritual to unlock their destined profession. The order was strict, and people stepped forward with the discipline of a military lineup. Among them, a third-year student named Inteo was assigned the role of scaffold worker. After him, a fifth-year named Lowy received the role of mason. These were not glamorous titles, but they were steady and respectable, essential support roles that kept things moving even if they didn't stand out. Standing nearby, Fun Yang watched the process with his arms crossed, clearly unimpressed. He carried himself like he was more important than everyone else there, his expression full of arrogance. As he looked around, it was obvious from the way he smirked that he considered these roles beneath him. In his mind, the awakening process only produced low-tier professions that didn't matter. His followers, eager to flatter him, quickly agreed with his thoughts. They pointed out that Fun Yang had awakened as a greatsword warrior, a rare and highly regarded combat class, and praised him as someone far above the others. They mocked the support professions as people only good for carrying his shoes. Just then, someone accidentally brushed against Fun Yang's shoulder while passing by. The movement seemed unintentional, but one of his lackeys immediately reacted as if deeply offended, shouting and demanding to know who dared bump into him. The person who had brushed past turned around calmly. His tone was polite, and he explained that he was in a bit of a rush. Fun Yang narrowed his eyes as he recognized him. His look changed. There was now a hint of interest, as though he had noticed something unusual. A small, cold smile appeared on his face, like he was planning something in his head. One of his followers leaned in and quietly pointed out how the guy didn't act like a regular student. He held himself like someone from an important family. There was suspicion in his voice. Maybe this person wasn't someone to take lightly. But Fun Yang clearly wasn't buying it. He scoffed at the idea and waved it off like it was a joke. Then, one of the gossipers around them loudly whispered something for everyone nearby to hear. He mentioned that the Lin clan had been destroyed a few years ago under mysterious circumstances, and no one knew the reason. Then came the reveal. The person who had bumped into Fun Yang was Lin Han, the last known heir of that clan. Hearing that, Fun Yang laughed out loud. His tone was sarcastic as he called it a tragedy. He brought up how Lin Han used to be one of the two top talents during primary school, and now he was reduced to this. Fun Yang made it clear that he thought it was ridiculous for someone like Lin Han to show up at the awakening ceremony, calling him a deluded fool who was just asking to be laughed at. The crowd started murmuring, watching how Lin Han would react. But he didn't seem affected. His only response was a small, calm smile. He stood straight, showing no signs of anger or embarrassment, while others whispered and judged him. Lin Han simply walked up to the steel, placed his hand on it, and spoke firmly, as if declaring that he was about to prove something. Suddenly, an overwhelming burst of energy surged out from the awakening steel. It was strong and unexpected. The space around them seemed to tremble slightly. People nearby froze in place, their faces stunned. No one had expected such a reaction. Even Fun Yang's followers were at a loss, one of them stumbling over his words in confusion as he turned to Fun Yang. Then came a brilliant flash of light. It was so intense that it hurt to look at directly. The crowd was silent, caught off guard by the display. Many had never seen anything like it during an awakening ceremony. As the light faded, the results slowly appeared on the awakening steel. The words were clear: profession, hidden grade 6, title, Beast Tamer. The square erupted with mixed reactions. Some people looked confused, others skeptical. While the profession was rare, its usefulness was questionable. Some in the crowd muttered, wondering if Lin Han was truly a genius or just someone who drew an odd profession. Fun Yang wasted no time reacting. He laughed again, now even louder, treating the whole situation like a joke. He dismissed the awakening result as meaningless, saying that without a powerful beast, the profession was useless. He pointed out how raising a strong beast would require huge amounts of money and resources. Then he mocked Lin Han directly, saying he should be smart and ask for help. Fun Yang even offered to throw him some spare change so he could buy a mad dog to form a contract with. At that moment, Lin Han responded with a smile that carried a different tone, part mocking, part playful. He made it clear he had no intention of accepting anything from Fun Yang. He joked that there was no need to buy a mad dog, especially when one was already standing right there barking at him. It was a sharp comeback, said casually, but with enough bite to hit its mark. Fun Yang's face turned red with anger. His frustration boiled over as he muttered insults under his breath. He couldn't hold it in anymore. With a loud roar, he lunged at Lin Han, swinging his fist, clearly intending to attack him and settle the insult physically. Just as Fun Yang charged at Lin Han in a fit of rage, a series of steady footsteps cut through the tension. A powerful kick landed cleanly on Fun Yang's face, stopping him in his tracks. Bai Bing had arrived, her presence sharp and commanding, like a veteran officer stepping onto a battlefield. She didn't hesitate. Her tone was cold and firm as she stared Fun Yang down. She made it clear he had no right to speak to her student like that. Either he left immediately, or she'd deal with him herself. Fun Yang backed off without another word. Even though he was angry, he swallowed it. He turned and barked at his group to leave, knowing that Bai Bing came from a clan he didn't dare provoke. He muttered under his breath that Lin Han got lucky this time, but warned that if he ever acted arrogant again, there'd be consequences. Bai Bing turned her eyes toward Lin Han. She looked at him with a bit more curiosity now. It wasn't every day someone awakened a hidden profession. She gave a small nod of approval. Lin Han scratched his head with an awkward grin, almost like a kid caught sneaking snacks. He joked that she was teasing him again. Her expression shifted slightly, the strictness still there, but now with a hint of exasperation. She reminded him, not for the first time, that outside of school, he was supposed to call her sister, not teacher. Then she called him out for sneaking off to the awakening ceremony on his own. In her words, he had guts bigger than a watermelon. Lin Han raised his hands in surrender, making a face like someone caught in trouble. He pleaded with her to go easy on him. Seeing his reaction, Bai Bing's sternness softened just a little. Still strict, but now with warmth behind her eyes, she pulled out a bank card from her coat and handed it to him. Her tone was serious, but also filled with concern. She explained that being a beast tamer would be tough. Without enough money, he'd struggle from the start. She told him to take the card, find a proper beast, and make sure to focus on improving his strength. Lin Han accepted the card with genuine gratitude in his eyes. He promised he'd repay her kindness someday. Without missing a beat, she smacked him lightly on the head and smirked, telling him not to get ahead of himself. If he kept acting smug, she'd knock some sense into him again. Later, the scene shifted to Lin Han's home. It was a simple and quiet place. He returned to his room, looking tired. The day had been long and full of surprises. As he sat down, he let out a deep breath, almost talking to himself. He was finally home, but this was only the beginning. He knew that from here, things were about to change in a big way. Just then, something strange happened. His expression sharpened. A voice echoed in his mind, deep and ancient sounding. It congratulated him for awakening and informed him that the divine Beast Taming System had now been activated. A quick look into his background revealed the rest. Lin Han had once been the eldest son of the powerful Lin clan, a well-known and respected family. But tragedy struck 3 years ago when the entire clan was destroyed overnight in a massive flood. The Lin Han of that time had died helplessly in the chaos. But at that moment, a soul from another world, his current self, had taken over the body and inherited its fate. Since then, Lin Han had lived in this new world, slowly figuring things out. He knew about the existence of a mysterious system, but it had remained inactive until now. With the awakening complete, the system was finally online. Glowing text appeared before his eyes as the system interface lit up. He laughed with real excitement, as if finally reaching a goal he had been chasing for years. For 3 long years, he'd been waiting to activate this system, holding on, pushing forward. Now, with its power finally in his hands, things were different. A detailed status screen appeared in front of him. Name: Lin Han. Profession: Beast Tamer. Class: Hidden Profession. Level 1 Attributes: Strength 70, Agility 50, Spirit 110, Constitution 60. Equipment: None. Skills: Spirit Contract LV.1, Beast Space LV.1, Beast Summon LV.1. With the awakening complete, his first task arrived. The system's voice, formal and commanding, declared that the divine Beast Taming System had officially activated and was issuing a side quest titled Mysterious Salvation. But then, the tone of the system suddenly changed. It shifted into something more playful, almost like a salesman at a market. It offered him an optional upgrade. For just 100,000 Heavenly Dragon Coins, he could unlock Extreme Mode, granting faster growth, stronger attributes, and better development. Lin Han stared at the prompt, stunned, his face twisted with disbelief. He practically pulled his hair out, yelling in frustration. He had just gotten money from Sister Bing, and now the system was already asking to spend it? With an annoyed sigh, he gave in. He figured he might as well see what the system could really offer. Suddenly, a brilliant beam of light erupted, filling the entire room with a brightness. The entire space around him had changed completely. He glanced around in confusion, not recognizing anything. For a moment, he wondered aloud where he had ended up. Before he could think further, the familiar voice of the system responded. It congratulated him for completing the side quest Mysterious Salvation and unlocking Extreme Mode, which, according to the system, would now be a permanent part of his cultivation journey. The voice continued, more energetic now, almost like it was handing out a grand prize. It cheerfully announced that Extreme Cheat Mode was activated and that he would now be granted access to an ultra-rare beast, one no one had ever touched before. But then the tone shifted to something more serious. The system informed him that since he was still at first transmission of his profession, he could only unlock a single beast. It prompted him to confirm whether he wanted to proceed. Lin Han didn't answer immediately. His eyes narrowed slightly, and he paused, weighing his options. He knew each profession advanced every 10 levels, and with each advancement, only one beast could be contracted. Choosing poorly at the beginning could ruin his entire combat progression, and with his lack of resources, he couldn't afford second chances. After a brief moment of thought, he let out a resigned sigh. He didn't have money for more options anyway, so he figured he might as well trust the system. He tapped the control panel, muttering quietly, almost like complaining to himself about how ridiculous this all felt. The instant he made his choice, a small creature appeared, its tiny head poking out, with eyes that gleamed sharply, as if ready to pierce through an opponent. He immediately recognized that this was his first beast. In the palm of his hand sat something barely larger than his fingertip. Then the system made a grand announcement, stating that he had successfully activated one of the 10 ancient ferocities, the Heavenly Horned Ant. His reaction was instant. His face darkened, and he yelled out in frustration. He had spent all that money, 100,000 Heavenly Dragon coins, and in return, got an ant. He couldn't believe it. He even started wondering if there was some sort of refund policy. It felt like a scam, but the system wasn't bothered. It calmly continued, stating that the Heavenly Horned Ant had already formed a contract with him, and that its evolution process was beginning. Lin Han was stunned. He hadn't even agreed to anything yet, and the system had already bound him to it. He felt like he'd just been dragged into a forced sale. Before he could protest further, a figure materialized in front of him, a mysterious girl bathed in light. At the same moment, the system announced that the ant's evolution had completed and that it had now entered its combat form. Lin Han stared at the evolved creature, completely caught off guard. What he saw amazed him. This wasn't just any transformation. It was unexpectedly impressive, even beautiful in a surreal way. He reacted with surprise and excitement, like a fan seeing a celebrity in person. This outcome was way better than anything he had expected. Feeling confident, he told himself that with this beast, tomorrow's Saki trial was already in the bag. The next scene shifted to dawn at the training ground, a large platform surrounded by misty mountains. The teacher's voice rang out clearly, calling the students together for their first leveling session after awakening their professions. He explained that Bai Bing, who was originally supposed to lead the training, was unavailable due to urgent matters. Until she returned, command of the session had been temporarily given to him. Instructor Sa rang. As the instructor spoke, Lin Han stood nearby, distracted as he casually played with his beast. The instructor went on to explain that the students would be randomly assigned to training zones that matched their current capabilities. Though the trial wasn't meant to be dangerous, he emphasized a key rule. Safety came first, and they should avoid acting recklessly. As Lin Han moved through the crowded training ground, someone suddenly bumped hard into his shoulder, making him pause. It was Long Tinja, his sworn brother, a genuine close combat warrior known for his straightforward attitude. He grinned and asked if Lin Han had gotten himself a beast yet. If not, he suggested they team up and go hunt one together. Just then, Fun Yang seized the opportunity to throw in a jab. He mocked Lin Han with a sneer, offering to help him catch a few low-grade beasts, the kind only good enough to be used as backup. Then, twisting the sarcasm deeper, He added that if Lin Han learned to bark like a dog, maybe he'd toss him one to keep as a companion. Lin Han looked over casually, offering only a faint smile. Without raising his voice, he returned the insult with a quiet sting, asking which dog was barking now. Fun Yang lifted his chin and, with all the pride of someone issuing a royal command, declared that the barking one was Lin Han. But as the words left his mouth, it hit him what he just said. His face froze in realization. He had walked straight into the insult himself. Fury surged through him. He roared, no longer holding back, and charged at Lin Han as if he'd lost all reason. But Lin Han calmly lifted a hand, deflecting the incoming punch with smooth, practiced ease, as if he'd seen it coming from start. He didn't look angry, just amused. He even teased Fun Yang, saying that the punch was so weak it felt like he was just warming up for breakfast. Fun Yang began to sweat. Doubt crept in. How could a so-called beast tamer have such sharp reflexes and strength? He started wondering if Bai Bing had secretly given Lin Han some special enhancement the previous day. Suddenly, Instructor Sa Rang's voice boomed across the field, snapping the tension. He called out Lin Han's name and demanded to know why he was fooling around. It was his turn. He needed to head through the teleportation gate to his designated leveling area. Long Tenji's expression turned concerned. He urged Lin Han not to go alone, saying it was risky. But Lin Han simply patted his brother's shoulder and told him not to worry. He'd be fine. Off to the side, Fun Yang stood with arms folded, a sly and cruel smile spreading across his face. He muttered to himself that he had already tipped off Teacher Sa about Lin Han. This time, he was sure Lin Han wouldn't come back in one piece. Sa Rang's irritation was visible too. Watching Lin Han linger around Bai Bing had been eating at him. The truth was, he harbored feelings for her, and seeing Lin Han so close to her made him furious. In his mind, Bai Bing was his, and anyone near her was a threat that needed to be eliminated. As Lin Han stepped into the teleportation gate, Sa Rang clenched his fists tightly, his gaze full of cold intent. He had made up his mind. That boy wouldn't walk away unscathed. Meanwhile, Lin Han landed in his designated training area and immediately began scanning his surroundings. The terrain was rough, the territory of swift wind wolves, known for their incredible speed. This was a silver tier leveling zone, meant for students between levels 11 and 20. For someone in a supposedly weak profession like his, being sent here was clearly a trap. Sa Rang had done this on purpose. Then came a sharp, rhythmic sound behind him. A pack of swift wind wolves had already surrounded him without a sound, advancing quickly. Lin Han's expression tensed. His heart gave a small jolt. He cursed under his breath. Swift wind wolves, fast and deadly. But even facing them, he stayed composed. He called out confidently, joking that he was still alive and not going down that easily. Sa Rang would have to try harder if he wanted him gone. Almost on cue, his beast companion began to stir. Sensing its master's need, its spiritual energy awakened. In a flash of radiant light, the tiny form shifted, changing shape until, standing before Lin Han, was a woman of striking beauty. She looked like she had stepped straight out of a dream, her long snow-white hair falling over her shoulders, her crimson eyes calm yet fierce. She locked eyes on the incoming wolf pack. A transparent interface appeared in the air, and her clear voice followed. She reported that she was ready for battle and confirmed her activation state. Her details were displayed. Race, one of the 10 ancient ferocities level, 10 total combat stats, strength, 800 agility, 700 spirit, 600 constitution, 900 core skills included. Coalescence. Increases all base stats by 30% titanic force. Boosts absolute strength by 50%. Lin Han gave a small nod of approval, his eyes focused. This was his first time seeing her in combat, and he was curious whether the 10 ancient ferocities truly lived up to their name. At the same time, his own profile appeared. Name: Lin Han. Primary profession: Beast Tamer. Transmission: First, hidden profession. Current level: unclear. Base stats: Strength 70, 80 agility, 50, 70 spirit, 110, 60 constitution, 60, 90 equipment. None skills: Spirit Contract LV.1, Beast Space LV.1, Beast Summon LV.1. Then came the next system prompt. It informed him that his first task had been issued: eliminate 10 ferocious beasts. Completing this mission would earn him 100 beast taming points. Without waiting for a signal, Ji dashed forward, her movements so fast it blurred, and landed a punch that sent a snarling wolf flying. Any wolf that dared to charge at her was swiftly taken down, each one dealt with decisively. In no time at all, the pack, once feared for their coordinated attacks, lay scattered and defeated. None were spared. The wolves gasped on the ground, completely overpowered. Lin Han stood a few steps away, arms crossed, one hand casually tucked into his pocket. He watched the entire scene with a calm, distant gaze, as if merely observing a routine performance. When the dust settled, Ji landed lightly on her feet, not a trace of dirt on her. She reported in an even tone that the enemies had been eliminated. Her expression showed no hint of the battle she had just fought. Her eyes were cool and composed, with a quiet pride, as she awaited Lin Han's next instruction. Lin Han was thoroughly impressed. Internally, he praised her, not just for her strength, but for how effortlessly she handled the situation. Beautiful and deadly, she had taken down 7 swift wind wolves in under a minute. Lin Han thought that if she ever reached full maturity, she'd have complete control over this area. Thanks to the victory, Lin Han's system level instantly jumped from 1 to 6. His stats, strength, agility, spirit, and constitution also rose sharply, fueled by the defeat of 7 out of 10 required targets. Ji remained still, standing quietly beside him. Her eyes stayed focused on Lin Han as she softly called out to him again. He laughed gently at her tone, half amused, half sincere, and replied that anyone who tried to compare their stats clearly didn't understand. As one of the 10 ancient ferocities, she had no equals among her kind. She truly was a remarkable sight. Despite her power, Ji was delicate and charming, about half a head shorter than Lin Han. Overcome by the contrast between her appearance and her strength, he couldn't help but pat her soft hair. In that moment, she looked less like a ferocious beast and more like a pure-hearted girl untouched by the world. A strange emotion stirred in him, and for a second, he even felt an urge to kiss her. But before the thought could go any further, Ji respectfully bowed and reassured him in a quiet voice that everything was under control. That one sentence, paired with her calm and obedient demeanor, made Lin Han flush with embarrassment. He felt his face heat up, as if he wanted to dig a hole and hide. While Lin Han and Ji shared this brief exchange, 3 black-clad figures hidden in the treetops silently watched. They were part of a special task force sent by Sarang. The buzzcut leader whispered, noting that Sarang had claimed Lin Han was just a harmless student, yet here was a mysterious girl standing beside him. He asked if anyone knew who she was. One of the other men replied softly that he had no idea. But based on how she had taken down swift wind wolves with her bare hands, it was clear she wasn't someone to be taken lightly. Their eyes stayed locked on Ji. From her graceful stance to her elegant appearance, she seemed like a vision, something out of a dream. Wicked thoughts crept into their minds, and their gazes turned lecherous. One of them whispered that she was even more beautiful than Bai Bing, and that killing someone like her outright would be a waste. The other agreed, suggesting that they enjoy her first. The buzzcut leader, the only one with some sense, paused. He sensed something off. Beneath the girl's gentle look was a presence he couldn't ignore. He warned the others that she wasn't going to be easy prey. But if the 3 of them launched a surprise attack, they might succeed. He planned to take Lin Han out first. Just as he turned to issue the order, he was met with silence. Confused, he spun around and shouted angrily at the other 2, demanding to know what they were doing. What he saw stunned him. In the blink of an eye, Ji had already taken him down. One of them lay unconscious on the ground, completely out cold. The other was suspended midair, dangling helplessly in her grip like a chicken being held by the neck. It was a swift and fitting punishment for their vile intentions. The leader froze, shocked by her speed and raw power. He stammered in disbelief, asking how she had done it. She had closed the distance instantly, without a sound. His mind reeled. She wasn't normal. But he was no amateur. Years of experience kicked in. He didn't hesitate. Turning on his heel, he ran, prioritizing survival. Based on her strength, he estimated she had to be at least level 20. He had no intention of dying today. Lin Han and Ji didn't let him off that easily. As the man fled, Lin Han shouted, ordering Ji to chase him down. He told her not to let him escape. As the man ran for his life, a new wave of doubt and curiosity surged inside him. He kept asking himself, who was this kid? How could someone like him have such a powerful guardian? In his panic, he looked back to check how close they were, but failed to see what lay ahead. Without warning, a massive claw swung down in front of him, descending like a hammer from the heavens. He screamed, shouting out in desperation. B's strike crushed him on the spot, snapping his body like dry twigs. Just as the massive beast swung its enormous claw, Lin Han shouted out a warning, telling G to stop. She immediately halted and stepped in front of him. Lin Han stared at the creature, silently swearing. This wasn't some ordinary enemy. It had to be one of the 3 remaining beasts from his quest. But this one was far stronger than what you'd expect from a trial designed for early levels. Before them stood the swift-winged Wolf King, a towering gray beast radiating menace. Its level? 22. Every breath it took warped the air around it with eerie green ghost flames. It wasn't just any beast. It was the pack leader, here to avenge its fallen kin. Beneath the Wolf King's foot, the buzz-cut man who had tried to run moments earlier reached out weakly. His lips trembled as he silently begged for help, clinging to life. But the beast had no patience. With one final movement, it raised its paw and crushed him completely, ending his life in a splatter. This was it. Lin Han realized this was the boss of the trial. If he could defeat the swift-winged Wolf King, he'd finish the most dangerous part of the challenge and gain 200 beast taming points. The reward was tempting, but the risk? Immense. One mistake could mean instant death. Lin Han hesitated for a moment. As the saying goes, when all else fails, retreat. Concerned, he pulled G by the hand, suggesting they withdraw for now. But G gave a cold smile. Her usual gentle aura was gone. Her expression hardened, serious and determined. Lin Han felt both nervous and reassured. The moment he saw her gaze, he knew she wouldn't back down from this fight. So he pointed to the giant beast and gave the order confidently. Take it down. Without a second thought, G launched forward like a streak of silver light. Her small form sliced through the air, aiming straight for the monster. The Wolf King saw her coming and let out a deafening roar, its mouth wide with a full set of deadly fangs, ready to strike. But G moved faster. Like a scene straight out of film, she leapt into the air and grabbed the beast's jaws, upper and lower, locking them in place. Her arms strained with effort, veins showing as she held the monstrous bite open. Using the wolf's own momentum, she propelled herself higher, shooting skyward as moonlight cast a pale blue glow around her. Her silhouette floated briefly above the treetops, striking and surreal. But the Wolf King wasn't done. It followed her up, activating its signature skill, Swift Wind Blink. It vanished for an instant and reappeared midair, directly behind her. Before she could react, its claws slashed across her arm, leaving a deep wound. Her scream echoed through the forest, briefly halting even the rustle of leaves. The hit sent her flying down, slamming into the ground with crushing force. Lin Han stumbled backward, shocked by the sheer impact. The swift-winged Wolf King landed just behind her, not giving her a moment's rest. Its claws were already raised for another strike, eager to finish her off. G forced herself up, trying to block, but the wolf's strength and speed overwhelmed her. She struggled to defend, unable to land a solid counterattack. Lin Han could see the situation was bad. The power gap was obvious. This wasn't a fight she could win through sheer strength alone. Then, just as things reached their peak, another threat appeared. A hidden wolf lunged from the side, charging at Lin Han. He cursed under his breath. The fight was already uneven, and now the others were joining in. As he dodged the first wolf, 2 more flanked him, aiming to attack from behind. But Lin Han reacted quickly. He grabbed the tail of the wolf in front of him and twisted with all his strength. His eyes were sharp, and his voice dripped with contempt as he mocked them for being too inexperienced. He laughed, saying that since they were so eager to offer their heads, he might as well accept the gift. With a powerful spin, he hurled the wolf into the other 2, crashing them together in a clean, controlled strike. It was a precise move like something out of a textbook. That one moment alone took him closer to completing his quest, defeating 7 wolves and also unlocking 10% of G's hidden potential. Now, Lin Han was clearly in control. The fight was turning in his favor. There was no need to rely on G alone anymore. With new momentum, he rushed at another wolf. His eyes were cold, focused, and unforgiving. When he reached the beast, he copied the move G had used earlier, grabbing the lower jaw. But unlike her, Lin Han didn't just restrain it. He tore the creature apart, ripping it in half with brutal force. Blood and flesh exploded in every direction. It was a grisly scene, but his goal was clear. That was it, 10 out of 10. With the last beast down, the system chimed in to confirm that the mission was complete for both Lin Han and G. Each of them was awarded 100 beast taming points. Realizing his recent power boost, Lin Han called out to G, signaling it was time to use their strongest move. She immediately felt a powerful surge of energy awaken inside her, her eyes lighting up with a fierce glow. The Wolf King no longer fazed her. At that moment, the system's voice rang out calmly in her mind, announcing that 100 beast taming points had been consumed to activate a special skill, Furious Coast Strike, the signature ability of the Heavenly Horned Ant. According to the system, the skill would deal damage equal to 100% of her current attack power and had a 5-minute cooldown. Without wasting any time, G quietly shifted into her battle ant form and began creeping up the massive wolf's leg with total silence, like a ghost moving through shadows. The beast, clearly disturbed, glanced around nervously but couldn't spot her. It was completely unaware of what was coming. Suddenly, a force hit its abdomen with tremendous impact. Before it could process the pain, G returned to full-size mid-attack, slamming her entire strength into its core. The timing was precise. The power flared just long enough to drive the hit home, then quickly faded as her mana dropped. She began shrinking again, returning to her human appearance while staying on the offensive. The Wolf King, unable to react, became her target for one last decisive move. With the skill's energy still partially active, G gripped the beast's midsection and tore downward with everything she had. Blood and flesh scattered in every direction as the giant creature was ripped apart. Then, she landed heavily on the ground with enough force to kick up a shockwave. Lin Han instinctively stepped back, raising his arm to block the dust and force. As G steadied herself, the system chimed in, boss-level quest complete. The elimination of the Swift-Wind Wolf King had earned them 200 beast taming points and 1.5 experience points. But Lin Han barely registered the notification. His focus was locked on G, still shocked by what she just pulled off. A level 22 monster, taken down so cleanly, it was impressive and slightly unnerving. G turned and gave him a confident smile that made his skin prickle. This was her real nature, one of the 10 ancient ferocities, the beast hidden behind the pretty face. The system wasn't done. Another announcement rolled in. The Wolf King and one of the other slain beasts had dropped weapons. Lin Han's inventory updated. At the same time, G crouched down again, looking ready to pounce, though her expression was now cheerful and innocent again, as if she'd never just torn apart a monster. She ran toward Lin Han and wrapped her arms around him tightly, calling out to him like a happy child. She even bragged about how she had crushed all those wolves, asking why he was trying to dodge her hug. Lin Han stood frozen. This was the first time a girl had hugged him like that, and with her pressed against him, he wasn't sure where to look or how to react. His cheeks turned red, flustered and dazed, but his mind still echoed with the image of her tearing the Wolf King in two. Could G really be this powerful? She looked up at him with sleepy eyes, whispering that she was tired, and just like that, she passed out in his arms. The battle had clearly drained her, and she had nothing left. Despite everything, Lin Han couldn't help but feel relieved. The fierce fighter had returned to her soft, adorable self. He gently patted her head and spoke to her softly, telling her she did well and could rest now. Even half asleep, G responded with a happy little grin, saying she understood. Lin Han sat down beside her, leaning back against a tree to recover. The system displayed a message. Energy-saving mode was now active, and his physical recovery had begun. He looked over the interface and chuckled to himself. It was just like one of the online games from his past life, fighting monsters, collecting loot, and cashing in. He quickly tapped the screen, curious about the drops. When he saw the list, his eyes widened with excitement. There it was, his special weapon. He couldn't believe his luck. He held the weapon in his hands. It was the Wolf Fong's Malice, a sleek silver sword that gave off a sinister aura. It required level 22 to equip, but offered plus 50 attack and plus 80 agility. Even better, it came with the Furious Coast Strike passive. When a user was injured, all stats increased by 5%, making it ideal for prolonged battles. A magical staff, the Ice Scepter. Usable at level 10, It increased magic power by 50 and had a 30% chance to freeze enemies for 1 second on hit. In the hands of a spellcaster, it could be a serious game changer. Lin Han grinned, satisfied with the outcome. This was exactly the kind of progress he needed. Lin Han checked his stats eagerly, excited to see where all the XP gains and battle rewards had landed him. He had leveled up fast, scored some powerful new weapons, and maybe even had a shot at earning some good money. "Let's see, what level am I now?" he muttered, pulling up the interface. But instead of celebration, a warning blinked across the screen. Current level, 10. Max level reached for first transmission Beast Tamer. Requirement: advanced profession to continue leveling. He blinked, a bit surprised. Didn't expect one Wolf King kill to boost my XP this much. That boss was worth a truckload, he thought. Surveying the battlefield, still littered with defeated wolves, Lin Han realized that grinding more monsters here wasn't necessary anymore. His eyes then moved to the 2 black-clad agents G had knocked out earlier, still unconscious under a tree. A sly grin formed at the corner of his mouth. "Before I leave, I'll squeeze some answers out of those 2. Someone had to be pulling their strings." The moon above cast a quiet, frosty light across the scene. Time passed quietly, the tension now simmering beneath the surface. Hours later, at the teleportation gate, Instructor Saw Rang stood with a group of medics. His voice cut through the early morning air. "Prepare. Trainees are returning." Trying to keep up the appearance of professionalism, he barked orders. "Ready the health scanners. Prioritize treating the heavily injured." But behind that fake smile, a more sinister plan was brewing. "Let's see who makes it back," he thought smugly. Especially Lin Han. Then, a sharp voice called out, catching him off guard and wiping the grin off his face. Bai Bing had arrived. She was clearly here to check on her student. Saw Rang's expression twisted for just a second before he forced a grin back onto his face. "Oh, Teacher B," he said, keeping his tone pleasant but dismissive. "Weren't you tied up with other duties today? Why trouble yourself? Just rest. Let me handle the trainees." But Bai Bing wasn't here for small talk. Her instincts told her something was off with Lin Han's trial. Her gaze narrowed. "You owe me a clear explanation," she said firmly. Still pretending to play fair, Saw Rang responded calmly, acting like he had nothing to hide. "Teacher B, I know you're close to Lin Han," he said, "but we need to treat all students equally." Then, as if that wasn't slimy enough, he added with a self-important tone, "And if fairness is what you're after, I've got experience to share. Why not join me somewhere quieter so we can talk in detail?" A man preaching virtue while planning betrayal. He couldn't have looked more suspicious. Bai Bing didn't even bother with a reply. She struck. Her palm moved like a winter gust, sharp and controlled, straight for his face. Before he could even react, a thin blade of frost pressed against his throat. Her voice was icy. "Saw Rang, I want a convincing explanation." Now, only then did the reality sink in for him. A shiver ran down his back, and his throat went dry. For the first time, fear showed in his eyes. He stammered, "Teacher B, I'm not sure what you mean." But Bing didn't let him play dumb. "Lin Han just awakened," she said, voice cutting like glass. "He's a rookie, a beast tamer, and you threw him into a silver tier zone? He wouldn't even have had a beast to rely on yet. How's he supposed to defend himself?" The blade stayed exactly where it was, just one push away from ending the conversation for good. "You think because he's an orphan with no background you can do whatever you want?" she continued, her voice now a low, angry hiss. "Pick on him just to flex your authority?" Saw Rang reached up slowly, carefully pushing the blade aside while trying to keep a nervous smile on his face. "You're misunderstanding me," he said quickly. "I had good reasons. Lin Han needs pressure to grow. He just awakened, right? Trials make him stronger. And I didn't leave him alone," he added hastily. "I even assigned 3 assistants to follow and protect him." Bai Bing didn't say anything for a moment. She slowly retracted the blade, her eyes never leaving his face. "You'd better pray Lin Han returns safely, because if he's hurt even a little, I'll carve the same wound onto your body." Saw Rang gave a stiff nod, rubbing his head awkwardly and putting on a forced grin. But deep inside, he was already scheming again. "Act all high and mighty now," he thought bitterly. "Let's see how smug you are when you see Lin Han broken and beaten." A sudden loud sound cut through the tense moment between Bane and Saw Rang. The overseers had announced the return of the trainees. The first to step out was Lang Ling Shuer from Class 6, a rare storm mage and one of First High's 2 top geniuses. She walked out calm and composed, like the trial had been nothing more than a formality. The crowd immediately stirred. It's Lang Ling Shuer. Knew she'd be first. Compared to her, Lin Han's not even worth mentioning. Right behind her was Fun Yang, quick to flatter. As expected, you're the school's top student, even faster than me. When she didn't respond, he kept talking. Ling Shuer, we're First High's brightest stars. We should stick closer in the future. But Lang Ling Shuer simply stepped to the side, avoiding his hand like brushing past a breeze. Her response was cool and clear. If it was the old Lin Han, I might consider you pass. Fun Yang's expression twisted slightly, struggling to maintain his smile as the sting of humiliation sank in. Another student emerged from the trial gate. Lin Jia came running, breathless, his face full of urgency. Little Lin. As he returned, Fun Yang scoffed, not holding back. Didn't expect a tub like you to survive. Quite the luck. But your dear friend Lin Han? Probably dead in the secret realm. Lin Jia clenched his fists, his teeth grinding in anger. His eyes were blazing. Say that again if you dare. Fun Yang looked him up and down with mockery. Fiends. Lin Han's dead. A beast tamer like him? How long could he possibly last? Before things could escalate further, Rang barked out, all of you shut it. Then he turned on Lin Jia, snapping, back in line. Fun Yang smirked, and Long Tin added mockingly, what? Is Lin Han your dad? Stop dreaming and work on yourself. Rang motioned with his hand. Move aside. Don't block the returning trainees. Knowing the instructors were all on the same side, Lin Jia swallowed his frustration. He took a deep breath, telling himself Lin Han would be back. He just needed a little more time. Time passed slowly. About an hour later, Fun Yang was lounging on a rock, acting like a king. His lackey was massaging his shoulders. Brother Fun, rough few days, huh? Brother Fun, is this pressure okay? But Lin Jia's eyes never left the trial gate. His chest was tight, the same thoughts circling in his head. Why is everyone back but no sign of Lin Han? One of Fun Yang's lackeys snorted. Still waiting? He's long gone. A beast tamer, torn apart by beasts, he died the way he lived. Before Lin Jia could respond, something flew in from the distance with a piercing whistle. A rock slammed into Fun Yang's crew, knocking them over and leaving them clutching their heads and howling. Startled, Lin Jia turned to see where it came from, and then he saw him. Lin Han walked out from the shadows, his steps light and unhurried. A faint smirk played on his lips as he said, just lingered a bit. Since when did the school get so many barking dogs? Lin Jia's face lit up. Little Lin, he shouted, running over with flailing arms. You're finally back alive. Even Bane nearby breathed a soft sigh of relief. Kid, you nearly scare me to death. But not everyone share that feeling. Rang's face stiffened. Ow! I sent 3 men to eliminate him. How's he back in one piece? Still, he kept his smile on the outside. Inside, he was already spinning more plans. You got lucky, Lin Han. But this isn't over. Fun Yang stepped forward, smirking. Can't believe you actually passed the trial. He sneered. A beast tamer without a beast. What did you do? Hide in a corner and wait it out. But Lin Jiao wasn't having it. You brain dead? If everyone was as useless as you, we'd all be dead. Always pampered from A to Z. Lin Han let out a light laugh. Protected? Let's see what's real and what's not. Lin Han remained unbothered and stopped Lin Jia from reacting. Calmly, he asked Fun Yang to repeat himself. Then, in a voice loud enough to quiet the entire courtyard, he asked if Fun Yang was done barking. With a slight smirk, he added that someone with Fun Yang's skills wasn't even qualified to carry his pet sandals. Fun Yang's face turned red, though he tried to stay composed. In response, he threw out a challenge. He proposed they compare levels, and if Lin Han won, he'd pay 100,000 Heavenly Dragon coins. But if he lost, Lin Han would have to kneel and call him Grandpa. Without hesitation, Lin Han agreed. He calmly said he'd make sure Fun Yang's face hit the dirt. Lin Jiao panicked, trying to stop him and reminding him that the instructor was still present. Lin Han simply turned to teacher Rang and explained that this was a personal matter, asking him not to intervene. Rang, feigning neutrality, nodded and agreed to let the bet play out. He made a statement about honor and integrity, reminding everyone that First High valued these traits. Inwardly, though, he was pleased. He thought Lin Han had walked into a trap and expected to win without lifting a finger. Standing off to the side, Bai Bang said nothing, but her eyes showed a mix of pride and suspicion. She recognized something familiar in Lin Han's demeanor, something sharp and calculated. Ready to proceed, Sarang officially announced that the match would begin. Lin Jia stepped forward, clearly nervous. He clarified he wasn't part of the bet, but couldn't stand by as Lin Han's brother. The system displayed his class and level. Frenzy Warrior, level 2. Fun Yang scoffed at the reveal, mocking Lin Jia for acting bold at such a low level. He then revealed his own stats. Great Sword Warrior, level 3. With his chest puffed out, he claimed this was the mark of true talent. His lackeys cheered, excited to see their leader's superiority. They praised him loudly, calling him the best and admiring his rare profession. Lin Jia felt crushed, as if doused with cold water. Inwardly, he cursed. He hadn't expected Fun Yang to already reach level 3. The situation felt grim. Riding high on his confidence, Fun Yang turned to Lin Han, taunting him next. He brought up another student who hadn't passed level 2 yet, claiming Lin Han couldn't possibly be better. He even suggested they both kneel and admit defeat to save time. Lin Jia was fuming and was about to retort when Lin Han stopped him again. He told him to calm down. Someone like Fun Yang wasn't worth his time. Then, without warning, Lin Han released his aura. A powerful force swept through the courtyard like a gust of wind, shaking the very air. With confidence, he declared that even if he reset his progress and started from scratch, he'd still leave Fun Yang far behind. The system displayed his actual level, Beast Tamer, level 10. The crowd reacted instantly. Shock and disbelief filled the space. People stared, jaws dropped, unable to process what they saw. A level 10? It felt unreal. The blonde-haired boy stared at the protagonist in utter shock. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. The person he had dismissed as a worthless beast tamer had somehow grown far stronger than he could have imagined in a ridiculously short amount of time. His disbelief turned to outrage as he pointed an accusatory finger, shouting in protest. He couldn't comprehend how even Lung Lingxue, the academy's top student, hadn't achieved something like this. To him, the only explanation was foul play. There was no way this was possible without cheating, and in his frustration, he latched onto that assumption as fact. The protagonist, however, was unbothered. With a calm but mocking tone, he threw the boy's words right back at him. He questioned the boy's mindset. Just because someone like him couldn't accomplish something, did it mean no one else could? His remark highlighted how narrow and self-centered the boy's thinking was. Then, almost as a subtle reveal, he hinted at the true source of his strength, a hidden class. It was a quiet flex, meant to shut down all accusations without needing further explanation. Turning toward his sister Bing and instructor Chao, the protagonist regained his composure and spoke with firm confidence. He reminded the instructor of the bet they had made and emphasized that he had now won. His tone was serious. He wanted to ensure that Feng Yong would be held to his end of the deal and not be allowed to slip out of the consequences. Then, with a smirk and a trace of sarcasm, he looked again at the instructor and delivered another line, one laced with deeper meaning. He credited his rapid progress to a group of teaching assistants who, under the pretense of protecting him, had actually been sent to sabotage him. He made it sound like a genuine thank you, but it was clearly a dig meant to expose the instructor's involvement without outright confrontation. It was a clever move, calm, public, and humiliating. Instructor Chao, hearing this, immediately grew tense. The protagonist's words made it obvious that he knew the truth, that those assistants hadn't been there to help. The instructor's thoughts raced. Did Lin Han know everything? Had he captured the people sent after him? Worse, was he preparing to use that as leverage? Fear set in. Internally, the instructor's frustration boiled over. He had worked hard to climb to his current position, and now it felt like it was all on the verge of collapsing because of one student. Anger and desperation filled his mind. He couldn't let this escalate. He had to silence the protagonist permanently before things spiraled out of his control. Meanwhile, a short distance from the commotion, a blue-haired girl was watching the scene unfold. She stared at the protagonist with a mixture of surprise and disbelief. In her thoughts, she wondered if the Lin Han she was seeing, who had now reached level 10, was the same academy prodigy once hailed as their top genius. It felt surreal. Yet, even as shock flickered in her eyes, she quickly looked down at her own stats on her phone. She wasn't discouraged. Instead, she reaffirmed her resolve, confident that, eventually, she would catch up to him. Back at the center of the field, Lin Han turned toward his sister Bing. Noticing her presence, he raised a brow and asked why she was there, gently reminding her that she had mentioned having important business to attend to. His question was casual, but curious. Bing, however, grew a bit flustered. She averted her gaze, clearly embarrassed, and beads of sweat formed on her forehead as she responded. She explained that her task had already been completed and that, as a teacher, it was her responsibility to show up. She couldn't ignore the situation. After all, this was part of her job. Just then, Lin Han's friend, affectionately referred to as Fatty, chimed in from behind, directing his comment at Bing. With excitement, he emphasized how amazing Lin Han's progress had been, pointing out that he had reached level 10 in just a few hours. He boldly claimed that if given a little more time, Lin Han would become practically unstoppable. But right as the atmosphere grew lighter, Bing's expression suddenly shifted. Her eyes caught something alarming behind Lin Han. She spotted instructor Chow lunging forward from behind him, expression twisted in rage and shouting out for Lin Han to die. Lin Han, unaware of the danger, was still laughing and talking casually with his friend, completely off guard. Without a moment's hesitation, Bing dashed forward and placed herself between Lin Han and the incoming attack. She raised her voice, shouting for him to watch out, and blocked the strike with her arm. Holding her ground, she reprimanded the instructor harshly, reminding him that attacking a student violated academy rules. Instructor Chow, however, was beyond reasoning. Grinding his teeth and snarling in fury, he shouted back that he didn't care about academy rules anymore. He declared that he had to eliminate Lin Han, right here and now. Bing was momentarily pushed back by the force of his attack, but she quickly regained her footing. With fire in her eyes, she launched a retaliatory kick at him and made it clear. As long as she stood there, she would never let him succeed. Fatty, witnessing the struggle, cheered her on with concern and admiration, shouting encouragement. But Lin Han wasn't cheering. He looked on with growing worry. His eyes filled with panic as he realized Bing couldn't hold her own for long against someone as powerful as Chow Chow. If the fight dragged on, she'd be seriously hurt. As the battle escalated, the instructor managed to grab Bing with one hand. His voice turned cruel as he accused her of betrayal, of wasting all his heartfelt feelings by siding with Lin Han. He lifted her into the air by the leg, upside down, and with a twisted expression, he threatened to collect some interest from her first, implying something terrible. But before he could act, a powerful kick smashed into his face, sending him flying. The blow had come from Lin Han. 10 hours of growth and training had borne fruit. Lin Han now held Bing in his arms, checking on her with deep concern. Gently, he asked if she was okay. Despite the pain and chaos, she assured him that she was fine. Then, Lin Han turned his gaze toward the instructor, eyes blazing with anger. He mocked him for the sneak attack, asking how that level 10 flying kick had tasted. He warned that if the instructor couldn't come up with a proper explanation, he'd let him experience the full strength of a level 10 beast tamer once more. The instructor, still seething, pointed a trembling finger at Lin Han. He shouted in rage, accusing him of gaining his levels through murder. He claimed he had sent 3 level 15 teaching assistants to follow Lin Han, but none had returned. In his mind, there was only one explanation. Lin Han had killed them and used them to farm experience points. All around them, the yellow-haired boy and his group watched the escalating chaos silently, stunned by the accusations and the violence unfolding at that moment. The instructor activated his abilities. A radiant golden energy enveloped his body, and with fury in his voice, he declared that Lin Han was too cruel and ruthless to remain a student of the academy. He announced his intent to execute justice on the spot. But just then, Lin Han calmly tossed something in front of him, a corpse. With a cold voice, Lin Han asked the instructor if this was the teaching assistant he'd been referring to. Instructor Chow's expression shifted. Staring at the body, he recognized the man immediately. One of the assistants, AO, was dead. His thoughts spun. If AO was truly dead, then the other 2 were likely gone as well. But rather than despair, a devilish grin began to form on his face. Internally, he thought to himself that this outcome was even better. The dead couldn't speak, and therefore couldn't testify against him. Sarang was stunned. He stared in disbelief and forced a smile from afar, but his eyes burned with resentment. Trying to drown out the crowd's growing admiration for Lin Han, he shouted out, questioning how Lin Han could even be alive. After all, his corpse was supposed to be rotting somewhere deep in the mountains. He demanded an explanation, but Lin Han remained completely unbothered. He shrugged casually, then replied in a calm, cold tone, saying he had only escorted some survivors who fell into Shadow Mountain. His words cut deeper as he stepped forward, indirectly criticizing Sarang. Unlike those who send others to their deaths and then act like they never knew them, Lin Han had faced everything directly. He slowly approached a young man's lifeless body lying silently in a courtyard corner. In a soft, almost mourning voice, Lin Han muttered to the dead, calling it a pity. Even in death, the youth was being used as a pawn in someone else's scheme. Standing tall again, Lin Han let his gaze sweep across the crowd and added a cryptic comment. If the soul was unwilling, it should return at midnight to haunt the real culprit. He warned them not to confuse him with a real villain. Those eerie words struck a nerve. Sarang's expression turned frosty, his eyes flashing with murderous intent like a brewing storm. His anger exploded, and with clenched fists, he charged toward Lin Han, yelling that he'd crush his limbs and shut him up for good. The bystanders panicked as the scene escalated. Cries erupted. "Sarang, you dare! Little Lin, watch out!" But Lin Han didn't even flinch. He stepped aside effortlessly, dodging the attack with the ease of brushing off a breeze. His mocking smirk only enraged Sarang further. Lin Han taunted him, suggesting he was panicking because he was afraid his secrets were about to be exposed. He coldly pointed out that nobody would have guessed a man who called himself a professor would harm his own student. That jab was deliberate and public, and it sent Sarang into a frenzy. His face twisted in rage as he shouted back, claiming he was only trying to avenge someone, not cover anything up. But Lin Han's expression stayed the same. His voice, quiet and sharp as a blade, questioned whether Sarang truly believed in his heart that he was avenging someone or if he was just trying to silence witnesses. Meanwhile, Fun Yang and his group cheered for Sarang, encouraging him to beat Lin Han and teach him a lesson. Their mockery fueled the tension. Sarang's fury only intensified. His eyes bloodshot and fists roaring with strength, he unleashed a flurry of attacks. But even as the punches rained down, a troubling thought echoed in his mind. How was this failure dodging every move? Not even trained level 20 fighters could keep up like this. Something was clearly off. Lin Han kept calm, narrowly avoiding every blow. But he also realized something important. Sarang's brute strength was far superior. A direct fight would only end in his defeat. Without wasting time, Lin Han summoned his weapon, a dazzling, ice-blue staff. His voice stayed soft but firm as he explained that he wasn't foolish enough to take this fight head-on without an edge. The staff wasn't just for show. Its cold, glowing aura made even the onlookers step back. This was a powerful treasure known as the Ice Scepter, usable only by those at level 10 or higher. In an instant, frost burst forth and encased one of Sarang's legs like solid stone. He screamed in panic, totally caught off guard. Seizing that perfect opening, Lin Han moved in like a flash of lightning. His body blurred with speed as he closed the gap, then launched a heavy kick straight at Sarang, snarling a cold command for him to get lost. The impact sent Sarang flying like a withered leaf in the wind. Lin Han's lips curled into a small smile. He was clearly satisfied, not just because of the physical hit, but because his increased strength and magic had allowed him to finally overpower his opponent. The staff had been crucial, giving him the control needed to turn the tide. Without it, exploiting that one moment of weakness would have been impossible. Though Sarang might still have had the advantage in stats, Lin Han now had an A-grade item that allowed him to tip the balance. He didn't need to win in brute force anymore. He could win through tactics, and that brought him a quiet confidence. The ant with the heavenly horn beside her simply sighed, acknowledging that Sarang deserved the beating he was getting. Ji's own stats were formidable. She had a level 13 class and impressive attributes. Strength at 1,700, agility at 1,600, spirit at 1,500, and constitution at 1,800. Her skills added even more power. One gave a 60% boost to all base stats, and another added 60% extra strength. As Sarang tried to recover from Lin Han's blow, he suddenly saw Ji charging toward him. He gasped in shock, but there was no time to react. After all, her master had just been attacked. She wasn't going to let that slide. Sarang's face twisted again, his frustration and panic visible. He couldn't even rely on his profession anymore. He was completely overwhelmed. Ji stepped up and delivered a punch. From the sidelines, Lin Sha burst into laughter, shouting with amusement at how Lin Han had been hiding such a fierce warrior by his side. But not everyone was laughing. Bing stood quietly in another corner, her gaze distant and filled with curiosity. She wondered to herself, who exactly was this girl? Even Fun Yang's lackeys were stunned into silence. One muttered in disbelief that teacher Saw had been sent flying. None of it made sense to them. Ji looked ready to go on a rampage, itching to keep beating Saw Rang until her fury was spent. But Lin Han saw the situation escalating too far and raised his voice sharply, telling her to fall back. The moment she heard his command, Ji calmed instantly. Her wild aura faded, and she returned to Lin Han like a gentle kitten, obedient and composed. Her true identity as an ancient beast was dangerous to reveal. If too many people found out too early, it could bring serious consequences. So retreating was the wisest choice. She moved closer to him, pouting a little and playfully asking if she had done well. Lin Han's demeanor softened, and he praised her, but also gently reminded her to return to her human form. That made her beam with joy, nodding sweetly as she responded like a child eager to please. Sarang, however, was far from done. Roaring with rage, he shouted accusations that Lin Han had killed an assistant just to gain levels, and had even joined forces with an outsider to frame him. He demanded to know where the girl was, though his fury and the veins bulging on his face betrayed his desperation more than anything else. Sarang stood trembling, his eyes blazing and teeth grinding in fury. He shouted with rage, claiming Lin Han was a corrupt and immoral student who needed to be punished severely. His chest heaved from the intensity, but just before he could make a move, a foot gently pressed against his shoulder, halting him in place. A calm, commanding voice followed, "Hold it." A man approached with his hands clasped behind his back, speaking with authority. He reminded Sarang that the situation was still unclear and warned him not to pass judgment so hastily. That man was none other than Sikong Chun, First High's Dean. Pinned to the ground and taken aback, Sarang looked up, startled. "Why are you here?" he asked. Around them, whispers erupted in disbelief. The silver-haired man standing before them was truly Sikong Chun, a level 56 master and a legendary figure known for his deep mastery of magic. Sarang, unwilling to back down, immediately accused Lin Han of killing an assistant just to level up. He demanded that Lin Han be punished legally and harshly. His face was twisted in rage, and he insisted that there were witnesses and evidence to support his claims. While Sarang fumed, Lin Han stood quietly with arms folded, speaking evenly and with control. He dismissed the accusations as baseless slander and said there was no point trying to defend himself to someone who had already made up his mind. Dean Sikong's voice grew serious as he addressed Lin Han directly, asking if he had anything to say in response to the claims. Lin Han didn't hesitate. He suggested they investigate the assistant's cause of death first. The dean nodded and pointed toward the assistant's floating corpse, instructing everyone to observe carefully. Upon examination, Sikong Chun explained the obvious: crushed chest bones, ruptured organs, and extensive internal damage, all clearly the result of an attack from a massive beast. Still clinging to his narrative, Sarang tried to shift the blame again. He argued that even if the beast had landed the fatal blow, Lin Han must have been involved somehow. After all, he was the one who brought the body back. But Lin Han didn't flinch. He replied with a smirk, his voice laced with sarcasm. Sarang was too quick to jump to conclusions. All he had done was retrieve the body. If anyone was to blame, it was the one who sent the assistant on the mission in the first place. He even suggested that the assistant had been sent to assassinate him, but failed and ended up dying to a beast. Sarang immediately denied everything, claiming that he would never do something so dishonorable. At that moment, Bing stepped forward and addressed the dean respectfully. She pointed out that Sarang had irresponsibly sent Lin Han into a zone that was clearly too dangerous for someone of his level. She doubted his excuse of sending assistants for protection and implied it was a setup. Sarang began to panic. He insisted that he, as a teacher, would never endanger a student. He claimed it was all slander, one-sided accusations with no hard proof. The dean, seeing the tension rise, turned to Lin Han and asked for evidence. Accusing an instructor was no small matter. Meanwhile, Sarang tried to reassure himself. His men were dead. No one could testify, and even if someone had survived, who would dare speak against him to defend Lin Han? But Lin Han remained composed and confident. He stated clearly that he never made empty accusations because he already had proof. The words sent a chill through the air. Bane and Lin Sha, standing nearby, looked up in shock. Lin Han began to explain. During the incident, 3 people had secretly followed him into the training zone. They had run into the Swift-Wind Wolf King. One assistant died instantly, forcing Lin Han to kill the beast. Then he posed the question, why would Teacher Saw have people secretly following him at all? To answer that, Lin Han turned toward the 2 bound individuals lying on the ground. With a swift kick, he forced them into the spotlight. Pale and trembling, the 2 captives broke down into sobs, confessing everything. They admitted that it was all on Saw Rang's orders. He had commanded them to tail Lin Han and, if necessary, fake a beast attack. They begged for mercy, unable to endure the torment any longer. Outside, swarms of war ants circled, fierce and disciplined. They had already begun gnawing at the men's legs, blood oozing and tortured screams echoing. Lin Han watched it all with a chilling smile. With an ancient ant on his side, getting confessions was easy, almost like sprinkling salt on wounds. Turning to Sarang, Lin Han asked in a calm, ice-cold voice if the teacher now had a clear explanation to offer. Sarang, completely panicked, turned pale. His eyes darted around, trying to find an escape. He cursed inwardly, blaming the 2 fools for cracking so quickly. Then he spun around and tried to flee, but it was too late. His body suddenly locked up, frozen in place as a talisman charged with lightning bound him tight. Thunder cracked through the air, and Sarang screamed in agony. Sikong Chen's voice boomed with judgment. As a teacher at the academy, how dare Sarang plot against a student? He had crossed a line that no one should, and now he would face the punishment he deserved. From the side, Bing couldn't hide her joy. She grabbed Lin Han's hand and smiled brightly. It was finally over. He had been through so much, and now he could finally rest. She invited him to ride back with her, but as they turned to leave, a figure suddenly stepped into their path, stopping them cold. Lang Ling Shuer stood there with arms crossed, her gaze sharp. She asked Lin Han if he really had killed the Swift-Wind Wolf King. Her tone was calm, but probing. She stepped closer, scrutinizing him. Her voice was sly, but her question was direct. If Lin Han wasn't a close-range fighter and didn't have a tank by his side, then how could he possibly take down a powerful beast like that? The only logical explanation, he had to be bonded to a powerful beast. Without hesitation, she challenged him to a simulated duel to test his real strength. Lin Han, clearly uncomfortable, avoided her gaze and muttered that now wasn't the time for such talk. He sighed to himself. Though she looked cold and serious, she was as curious and eager as a child. Bing stepped in quickly, placing a hand on Lang Ling Shuer's wrist. Her tone was firm but respectful. She understood Lang's passion to improve, but now wasn't the time for strength tests. Reviewing the trial's lessons was more important. The tension between the 2 girls sparked visibly. But Lang held her ground, insisting she was only curious about how a beast tamer fought. Bing, hands on her hips, fired back. Lin Han had just gone through a major ordeal and needed a rest. He wasn't going to indulge her request now. Seeing the conflict rise, Lin Han raised a hand gently, stepping between them. He tried to mediate, suggesting that since all the students had worked so hard, maybe it was best to dismiss them early. Both girls glared at him. He could only look up and comment awkwardly on the nice weather. Bing frowned, deep in thought. First, there was the mystery girl. Now Lang Ling Shuer. When did Lin Han become so popular? Then she scolded herself. What did it matter to her anyway? There was nothing between them. Crossing her arms, she turned away and left with a brief farewell. But Lang Ling Shuer wasn't finished. A dark aura settled around her as she reminded Lin Han he hadn't answered her challenge. Caught off guard, he quickly replied that he was too tired and suggested they talk another time. She backed off for now, but her voice was soft and full of meaning. She told him not to forget his promise. As she finally walked away, Lin Han let out a deep breath. But now, he noticed Bing seemed upset too. He sighed again, probably because he had gone off to train on his own. Shaking his head, he told himself there was no use overthinking it. Bigger issues lay ahead. Before him stood a massive ornate gate bearing the words Transaction Hall, Shadow Mountain. Lin Han entered casually, accepting a cup of tea from a serving girl. He calculated quietly. If the 2 items he had sold went well, he could cover his daily expenses and maybe even pay back Bing's loan. Just then, a well-dressed man with a dignified presence approached him politely. He introduced himself as Tien, the manager of the transaction hall, and asked to inspect the 2 items. Lin Han gave a small wave, and 2 weapons, a spear and a sword, floated up beside him, shining coldly. He explained that they were collected from the Silver Tier Zone within Shadow Mountain. Noticing a shift in Tien's expression, Lin Han raised an eyebrow and asked softly if something was wrong. The man bowed respectfully before replying. He asked for confirmation. Was this young man really Lin Han? When Lin Han confirmed, Tien's face lit up. He explained that he had known Lin Han's father, Old Lin, for over a decade. By seniority, Lin Han could call him Uncle Tien. He gave Lin Han a warm pat on the shoulder and praised him for entering the Silver Tier Zone at such a young age. If Lin Han kept progressing like this, he said, the revival of the Lin family wasn't far off. Lin Han offered a polite smile and handed over the items, requesting Uncle Tien's assistance in processing them. But behind the smile, his mind was already spinning. A friend of my father's? Perfect. Maybe I can use that to push for a better price. Unbeknownst to him, Tien was thinking along the same lines. He squinted slightly, a sly grin tugging at his lips. This kid's young and probably easy to lowball, he mused. Still smiling, he said aloud, Little Lin, these are decent pieces. For old time's sake, Uncle Tien offers 5 million Heavenly Dragon coins. He extended a hand in good faith, his voice measured and seemingly thoughtful. But Lin Han didn't flinch, calm and steady. He raised a finger and responded firmly. Business was business. Past relationships aside, fairness was key. He emphasized that the items came from the Swift Wind Wolf King, so the starting price was at least 8 million. Tien's expression shifted slightly, turning more nostalgic. He tried to appeal to sentiment again, reminding Lin Han how close he had been with his father. Then he pushed the offer up 5.5 million. Lin Han kept his composure. With a confident smile, he tossed out a dramatic counter. His father always trusted luck, so let's go with a lucky number, 17.88 million. Tien laughed out loud, raising his hands as if calling it a draw. He came back with his own lucky number, 6.66 million. Satisfied, Lin Han nodded, a slight curve of victory on his lips. Deal, 6.6 million. Only because it's you, Uncle Tien. Internally, he grinned. This went better than expected. A huge win. Tien shook Lin Han's hand with a broad smile, but a nagging feeling lingered in his chest. As the handshake ended, he realized he may have just been outplayed in record time. He gestured toward a wooden tray held by a girl nearby. Little Lin, the funds are split across these 2 cards, he said. One was a sleek black VIP card, offering up to 3 million coins in overdraft privileges. Patting Lin Han on the shoulder warmly, Tien told him to come back for any future sales or needs. Lin Han accepted the cards with a slight bow and thanked him respectfully. Then, figuring he was already there, he decided to browse some magic scrolls. As he watched Lin Han stroll toward the shelves, Tien silently reflected on how much potential the boy showed. For someone who had just awakened their power, Lin Han already had frightening strength. A sly, calculating grin formed on the old merchant's face. There'll be plenty of chances to work with him under these clear skies. Far from the elegant atmosphere of the transaction hall stood Lin Han's apartment, cramped, stacked like boxes. But what drew immediate attention was the military vehicle parked in front, an unusual and imposing sight. A sharply dressed man stood beside it, expression solemn. Lin Han approached and blinked in surprise. Uncle Lu, what are you doing here? The man, wearing polished glasses and a dignified air, bowed respectfully. Young Master Lin, it's been a long time. I'm Lu, steward of the B household. Lin Han gave a half smile, his tone light, but touched with bitterness. Ever since the Lin family had fallen, that name felt foreign. Indeed, it's been a while. So, what brings a noble guest like you to my doorstep? Steward Lu returned the courtesy with a deep bow and gestured toward a sealed item he carried. He explained that Miss Bing had personally led a team into a diamond-tier secret realm to capture a void beast for Lin Han. But acting without authorization had angered her family's patriarch, and as a result, she had been confined. She had entrusted this beast to Lu to deliver it to Lin Han. As Lin Han stepped closer, his eyes locked onto the strange gate-shaped container. A wave of emotions surged through him. Bing had risked entering a realm even the powerful Dean Sikong Chen wouldn't dare approach, all for him. The gesture left him shaken. He reached to open it, but Lu stopped him. There was one more message from the patriarch. Lu's tone turned sharp, almost cold, as he relayed the words. The Beef family has done all it can for you. After this, all ties are severed. The message was formal, final. Lin Han was to stay away from their young miss from now on. The bluntness of the message caught Lin Han off guard. He stared at Lu, stunned. With a serious tone, he muttered, "So we're strangers now." Lu's expression didn't waver. He stated clearly that he appreciated Lin Han's gratitude, but the Lin and Beef families had never truly been tied. Back when the Lin family collapsed, Lin Han had never begged them for help, and he wouldn't start now. With that, he turned and began walking away, cutting the bond cleanly and without remorse. As he left, Lu called out one last time, instructing Lin Han to take the Void Beast with him. But Lin Han didn't look back. His voice floated out, barely louder than a whisper. "If you must give a message to your patriarch, tell him this. Whether it's a beast or aid from the Beef family, I, Lin Han, need none of it." Lu's expression twisted into a sneer. In a low, threatening tone, he warned Lin Han not to forget what the Beef family stood for. No one refused their offerings. No one walked away untouched. Suddenly, Lu lunged forward with incredible speed, his movement full of threat, as if to teach Lin Han a harsh lesson. Refuse their help only if you're truly strong enough to back it up. But Lin Han met him with an unshaken gaze. He turned slowly, the weight of his stare like a blade slicing through the air. His aura erupted, heavy and suffocating. Lu stopped mid-motion, frozen in place. His body felt nailed to the ground. His heart raced with confusion. Why did this boy, who was supposed to be a useless beast tamer, feel so overwhelmingly dangerous? Why did standing before him feel like facing a predator? He tried to calm himself, to shake off the fear creeping up his spine. No, this is impossible, he thought. I won't be intimidated by a kid. Lin Han casually tossed a card toward Lu, his tone calm and emotionless. Here, take this. Lu caught it instinctively, but his eyes narrowed in confusion, unsure of the gesture's meaning. Lin Han didn't pause. He walked away slowly, his voice cutting back like a sharp breeze. The money sister Bing lent him, repaid with interest. She could be thanked on his behalf. Lin Han never owed anyone, and he never would. He turned slightly, his gaze piercing, and spoke one last warning with a steady voice that dug deep into Lu's mind. Next time, don't strike so casually. If he did, he shouldn't blame Lin Han for erasing all ties between the Lin and Beef families. Lu stood frozen on the spot, mind reeling. Was this really the same Lin Han from before, the castaway of a fallen household? Yet now, he radiated a terrifying aura, a presence that commanded attention. Meanwhile, Lin Han returned silently to his rundown home. Once a place of warmth and memories, it had now become a fragile echo of past glory. He collapsed on his bed, drained, his lips curled in a bitter smile. Dragons visiting chickens never mean well, he muttered, referring to the Beef family's empty show of generosity. But no matter how cynical he tried to be, Bing's face floated in his mind. It made him pause. I kept my distance, so she wouldn't get dragged into my mess. But this time, she risked everything for me. She did far too much. He turned over, trying to settle his thoughts. Forget it. Sleep. How about the profession advancement tomorrow? The little ant perched on his shoulder twitched gently, almost like it wanted to say something. It stirred and blew a soft breeze into his ear, like a secret shared only between a loyal companion and its master. Then, without warning, a blue light ignited from deep within his subconscious. The little ant shimmered, transforming in a flash. Before him stood a beautiful girl, as she leaned into him and embraced him gently, whispering, "Master." Her presence brought comfort. Her warm tone soothed the turmoil in his heart. "You've worked hard." The next morning, Lin Han arrived at the temple for profession advancement. A staff member greeted him with warmth and professionalism. "Young Lin, welcome. Your room has already been assigned by the system. Please proceed directly." As he made his way in, the temple buzzed with whispers. The crowd was abuzz with curiosity and gossip. His name was spreading fast. "Did you hear? First High's got a new awakened beast tamer. For real? That's such a rare class. No one chooses it. Not just that, he hit level 10 fast and beat Teacher Ring. His strength is insane. Totally busted. Think he's here to advance his profession? Hearing the chatter, Lin Han frowned in irritation. Fame travels too fast. Better keep a low profile. He reached the room and gently pushed open the door. At the center, a luminous green crystal floated silently, pulsing with life. He recalled the receptionist's instructions. All he had to do was touch the crystal to receive his quest. Lin Han muttered under his breath. Hopefully the human tier quest won't be too brutal. The moment he placed his hand on the surface, the system verified his identity and presented the challenge. Quest name: Thunder of the Fallen Kingdom quest level. Objective: slay the Thunder Beast at the ancient ruins. Collect at least 7 energy stones. Location: shattered ruins outside. The temple's massive screen lit up with the announcement. A 5-star advancement quest had been triggered. The crowd burst into an uproar. Whoa, a 5-star quest. Who the hell triggered that? That's legendary level hell difficulty. Without a strong guild backing you, it's suicide. Inside the room, Lin Han just groaned, his forehead dropping into his palm. What cursed luck did I step in today? A 5-star quest? What kind of karmic disaster is this? The screen outside updated again, listing the quest details. Notice: 5-star advancement quest triggered. Name: Thunder of the Fallen Kingdom level. Objective: slay the Thunder Beast of the ancient ruins. Collect at least 7 energy stones. Location: shattered ruins. Lin Han let out a sigh of relief. At least the system had masked his identity. If his name had been posted alongside the quest, the trouble would have been endless. Below, the crowd was still in a frenzy. Who's the poor soul that got hit with that nightmare? No way anyone survives that solo. What kind of monster profession master could handle this? Back in the room, Lin Han stretched his arms and took a breath, grateful for one thing, that the crowd didn't know it was him. Lucky they only posted the quest, not the name. Otherwise, I'd be buried in drama. The green crystal cast a mesmerizing light, bathing his face in a calm radiance. But his mind had already shifted into battle mode. The quest was fixed. No time to delay. Far away at the edge of the world lay the shattered ruins, remnants of a once mighty kingdom, now reduced to crumbling stone and silent echoes. Dust-covered relics stood like bones of a dead empire. Not far from the ruins, a fortified camp stood watch over the cursed land, waiting for its next visitor. Disciplined soldiers moved in orderly formation, patrolling the mercenary hub filled with bustling activity. Among them sat a bulky man with a gleaming bald head, dressed in a grease-stained black tank top. A toothpick hung from the corner of his mouth as he grumbled, "No one's taking quests lately. What a cursed month. I'm living on cold water again." Just as he muttered, his eyes flicked to the side and froze. Lin Han walked by. His demeanor was casual, but something about him was impossible to ignore. The bald man straightened instantly, as if jolted by electricity. And he wasn't the only one. Other mercenaries paused what they were doing, their eyes drawn to Lin Han's figure. Suspicion lingered in the air. Some whispered under their breath, "Look at that outfit. Some rich young master got lost. Must be here to try quest. Easy prey. Big fish just walked into the net. Careful," someone warned. "That fish might be your boss someday." A deep voice cut through the murmurs and brought Lin Han to a halt. "Kid, you here for quest?" The bald man stepped forward and thumped his chest. "I'm the captain of Black Wind Mercenaries. Need a reliable crew? We got a solid rep since you're new. I'll even give you a 20% discount." Lin Han remained unbothered. Hands in his coat pockets, voice lazy, he replied, "No need." But the bald man wasn't ready to back off. "All right, how about this? We do it for free, just to make friends." Lin Han's demeanor changed instantly. He grabbed the man's arm, fingers tightening until veins bulged. His voice was cold, sharp as a blade. "I said, no need." With a flick, Lin Han shoved him aside effortlessly like brushing off lint. He stared down at him with disdain. "Free help for a stranger? What kind of fool do you think I am? Mercenaries like you either rob or kill your clients." The man staggered, clutching his aching arm, rage boiling in his chest. "Damn it, I'll crush this arrogant brat." He lunged, but before he could strike, a small knife appeared in front of his face, twirling between slender fingers. "Baldy, hold it." The voice was playful, but laced with venom. A red-haired girl sat nearby, grinning as she stabbed the knife into the table. Her eyes, deep green and filled with malice, locked onto Lin Han. The boss didn't answer her question, but she already knew his thoughts. This is a safe zone. No need to rush. Let him leave first. Then the fun begins. Meanwhile, Lin Han arrived at the entrance of a crumbling ruin. Calmly taking in the surroundings, he noted the atmosphere. This place, Shattered Ruins, was clearly different from Shadow Mountain. It existed in its own separate space. Responding to his call, G stirred and appeared. Lin Han's voice turned serious. "Come out, AI. Time to move." G beamed and hugged his arm cheerfully, full of energy. "Master, I'm ready." Lin Han gently tapped her forehead with a smile. "Good girl. You'll have plenty of chances to fight today." But just then, a new system notification flashed in front of him. He sighed. "Another system quest? Damn. Congratulations, host." Lord Tier quest triggered. Quest name: Heart of Thunder Objective. Hunt the Thunder Envoy. Collect the Heart of Thunder. Reading through it, Lin Han's eyes lit up. 300 Beast Taming points? Nice. That's a major boost for AI. He pulled out his phone, mind racing. But no clues on where this Thunder Envoy is. I'll need to contact Uncle Tien for some intel. For now, he focused. AI, let's handle the profession advancement quest first. You'll get your beast taming points soon enough. Okay. From the distance, a wild howl pierced the air. A pack of thunder beasts appeared from the sandy hills, their movements swift and sharp like wind-carved blades. These were level 15 monsters known for their ambush tactics and pack attacks. Without hesitation, G slammed her fist into the ground. The impact was explosive. The earth shook violently, and several thunder beasts were blasted high into the air, their bodies tumbling like broken sandbags. The survivors dodged and immediately shifted their target, charging straight at Lin Han. But he didn't flinch. He stepped forward as if out for a stroll, eyes calm. Hovering above him was a fiery magic scroll. His voice was dripping with mockery. "If you can't beat AI, don't even dream of facing me." With a flick, the scroll fired a massive fireball. "Thunder beasts," he teased. "Try some roasted meat. Smells good already." The beasts barely had time to react. Their eyes widened in panic as the fireball closed in. "We're done for. Barbecue time." The scroll unleashed an endless barrage of flames, raining down like meteors. The entire pack was consumed in fire. The survivors scattered, running for their lives like panicked insects. Warning: you've reached your first transmission level cap. Complete profession advancement to unlock further experience gain. 3 more magic scrolls floated around Lin Han: Fireball Technique, Heavenly Flame Technique, and Flaming Missile. He frowned. "You're running already? My scrolls say otherwise." With a wave of his hand, more fireballs chased after the retreating beasts like fiery shooting stars. He turned to AI with a grin. "Wrap it up, will you?" "Got it," she replied, eyes burning with ruthless excitement. The battlefield fell silent once more. Smoke rose from scorched earth. Lin Han casually spun one of the energy stones in his hand, satisfied. "Not bad. Got enough in no time." These pricey scrolls really paid off. The system displayed updated information: Beast Companion, Heavenly Horned Ant-type, Ancient Ferocity level. 15. Lin Han glanced at the stats and shook his head. Still no advancement. Wasted all that experience. Although I didn't level up again, jumping from 13 to 15 was still decent progress. Lin Han pulled out his phone, his expression turning serious. He stared at the screen, expecting that the exchange had already sent the coordinates for the Thunder Envoy. Soon, a familiar voice came through the speaker. "Little Lin, I've located the Thunder Envoy. Sending the data now." A red blinking dot appeared on the screen. The location was clearly marked, but the voice added a warning. "Be careful. The Thunder Envoy isn't easy prey. If you're not at second transmission or above level 15, don't go alone." Lin Han didn't respond. Instead, he turned to IE, his tone firm but calm. "More beast taming points up ahead." IE gave a bright nod, eyes shining with energy. "Yes, master." Together, they walked off toward the marked coordinates, unaware that they were being watched. Behind a jagged rock, the red-haired girl crouched, her lips curled in a cunning smirk. She'd been observing everything, watching Lin Han casually toss around magic scrolls worth tens of thousands. "Quite the big spender," she muttered, eyes locked on him with greedy intent. "This time we'll hit the jackpot." Her bald companion stepped up behind her, a low grin tugging at his face. "Boss, should we strike now?" She raised her hand calmly. "No rush. Let him gather more energy stones. That girl next to him isn't ordinary. Once they're tired out, we move." Boss is brilliant, the bald man whispered in admiration. Meanwhile, Lin Han and IE walked arm in arm like a couple, heading toward the coordinates where their target, the Thunder Envoy, awaited. At the designated spot, a massive creature lay slumbering, its body half buried in golden sand. The Thunder Envoy, level 17. Lin Han gave it a disinterested glance and let out a soft sigh. Only level 17? Compared to the Swiftwind Wolf King, this thing's weak. No thrill at all. Still crouched, he pointed toward the beast, excitement twinkling in his eyes like a child about to play a new game. It's time. Kill it, and we go home for dinner. IE flashed a wide grin and dashed forward. Her sudden charge startled the Thunder Envoy from its rest. It barely had time to lift its head before a crushing punch landed square on its neck. The impact was instant, blood gushed from its mouth. As the hit connected, IE reverted into her original form, shrinking into a green ant with blazing red eyes. Without wasting a second, she dove into the fine sand, vanishing from view. The beast thrashed about, unable to locate its attacker. Underground, IE tunneled swiftly, targeting the creature's underside. A sudden burst of sand exploded upward as she emerged, shifting back into human form midair and delivering a devastating blow to its exposed abdomen. At that moment, a scroll activated. A radiant light lit up the sky, flashing like the symbol of death. Suspended in the air and vulnerable from the surprise attack, the Thunder Envoy had no chance to recover. Lin Han flicked his hand, his expression cold as ice. The ice spike technique triggered instantly. A jagged, diamond-shaped ice shard plummeted like a meteor, impaling the Thunder Envoy and pinning it to the ground. It didn't move again. System notification. Successfully defeated. Thunder Envoy experience gained. 0. IE dropped to the ground with a sigh, her eyes shaped like tired crescent moons. IE's exhausted. Lin Han stared at the system screen, slightly dissatisfied. Quest complete. Target eliminated. 1-1 reward. 300 Beast Taming points. He frowned slightly. Not strong, but tanky. Took way too long to bring down. Still, a smile tugged at his lips. 300 points for one target. Not bad. Good day's profit. Without delay, he opened the system interface and spent all 300 points to unlock a new skill for IE. Talent skill unlocked. Iron Bones increases defense by 20%. IE dropped to her knees, her aura flaring brightly as she absorbed the new energy. The boost was instantaneous. Her presence felt heavier, stronger. Overjoyed, she leapt into Lin Han's arms, holding him tightly. IE feels stronger. Thank you, Master. Flustered, Lin Han's face flushed slightly green. He waved awkwardly. Hey, we're in the wild. Don't let anyone get the wrong idea. Before they could recover from the moment, a heavy boot stepped into view. A mocking voice followed. Kit, you got skills. They looked up to see the red-haired girl from before, now flanked by a group of burly mercenaries. Her arms were crossed, her gaze laced with ridicule. Fighting alone's impressive, but real battlefields need firepower and brains. Lin Han didn't even flinch. He shot a cold glance toward the bald man, voice dripping with sarcasm. Baldy, didn't you offer your free service? What happened? Changed your mind and decided to give your grandpa a foot massage instead. Behind him, IE narrowed her eyes, a low growl of irritation building. These intruders had picked the worst possible time. The bald man, still stinging from earlier humiliation, clenched his fists and bellowed. Rejecting our mercenary offer has a price. Hand over your loot, or you're not leaving here alive. Lin Han stood firm, eyes sharp and unwavering. He confronted the group boldly, questioning whether they weren't afraid of the security team catching them for robbing people so openly. But the red-haired woman only laughed, her confidence unshaken. She explained smugly that the shattered ruins were divided into safe and unsafe zones, and they were currently deep in the latter, far beyond the patrols of any security forces. The bald mercenary beside her chuckled as well, his grin as crooked as his morals. With a chilling calm, she told Lin Han that if he died here, it would be blamed on a beast attack. He had only himself to blame for offending the wrong people. Her wicked smile widened as she assured him she'd take good care of him. Her subordinates eagerly joined in, splitting the roles. One of them claimed the girl beside Lin Han for himself. The redhead approved with a twisted smirk, as if granting them a reward. But just as they prepared to strike, a panicked mercenary shouted in alarm. IE was gone. The group repeated it in confusion. In that moment of hesitation, a silent figure rose behind the red-haired girl. It was Ai. Her eyes were narrowed with deadly focus, her expression emotionless yet terrifying. In a blur, she seized the nearest two men, her movements swift and surgical. Without show or warning, she spun them effortlessly and hurled them into the others like battering rams, knocking the mercenaries over like ragdolls. The red-haired woman stood frozen in disbelief, her voice breaking into a high-pitched scream. She couldn't comprehend what kind of monster they were facing. Before she could regain composure, Ai flung her aside like discarded trash. Tan Ning's remaining mercenaries snapped into action, weapons raised. They opened fire in desperation, hoping to end the threat quickly. Although some lamented the waste of such rare talent, survival was more important. Bullets rained down on the protagonist's beast, but she immediately activated her skill, Iron Bones, which boosted her defense by 20%. Seeing this, the mercenary leader was taken aback, realizing they had underestimated her strength, and quickly decided it was best to retreat. However, before he could act, the protagonist appeared right in front of him, cutting off his escape, and made it clear that running was no longer an option. He then activated a scroll, unleashing its power, which instantly overwhelmed all the mercenaries except for two who managed to survive. One of them, a bald man, panicked as he called the woman a monster and questioned why the boy with her kept using so many different magic scrolls. The red-haired woman, assessing the situation, concluded that the beast-like woman only seemed to obey the boy, and since he had likely exhausted most of his scrolls while fighting, they could still have a chance to turn things around by targeting him. Hearing this, the bald man grew excited, clenched his fist, and declared his intention to fight the boy, claiming he was nothing but a weakling who relied on scrolls. The protagonist, however, calmly responded, questioning whether he still wanted to fight back. Holding a large number of scrolls in his hand, he smiled and admitted that while he did have ambition, he was indeed just a weakling with money to spend. Then, with arrogance, he demanded they hand over all their equipment, energy stones, and skill books. Seeing the scrolls in his possession, both survivors grew terrified. With a mocking smile, the protagonist added that he might consider letting them go if they complied, but if not, he would make them understand the meaning behind the phrase that all fear stems from insufficient firepower. Frustrated at the situation, the red-haired woman muttered to herself, questioning who the real robber here was. The scene then shifted to the job change temple. A receptionist sat at her desk, recalling that the person who had activated the 5-star mission earlier that morning was named Lin Han. She found him rather handsome, but pitied him, thinking his luck was unfortunate, as such a difficult mission would normally take at least 10 days to half a month to complete. Just then, the protagonist appeared before her, greeting her politely and informing her that he had already completed the job change mission and returned to hand it in. The receptionist was stunned, her face breaking into a nervous sweat as she wondered if she had misheard him. A 5-star mission was incredibly difficult, so the idea of it being completed so quickly seemed impossible. Still in disbelief, she shuffled through his documents and awkwardly asked if he wanted to inquire about job change mission information, advising him to wait. The protagonist, however, clarified firmly that he had really completed the mission and was here to change his job. Her expression froze in shock. She could barely believe her ears and asked again if he had truly completed the mission. When he confirmed casually, saying it had been easy, her disbelief only deepened. Flustered and still sweating, she hurriedly told him to wait while she prepared a room for him immediately. Room 996 had just become vacant, and the operation process would be the same as when he had accepted the mission. After finishing the formalities, the protagonist casually waved his hand, thanked the receptionist, and left. The receptionist, still watching him walk away, couldn't help but question in her mind if he had truly completed the mission in just a few hours or if he was simply boasting. Before she could sort out her thoughts, an official announcement suddenly rang out across the temple. It declared that the 5-star mission known as Thunder of the Fallen Kingdom had been completed. Hearing this, the receptionist froze in shock, realizing it was actually true. The nearby onlookers, just as surprised, began murmuring to each other, wondering when someone capable of completing such a high-level mission had appeared. At the same time, the protagonist received a system notification congratulating him on completing the job mission and successfully advancing to his second job. His new title was revealed as Beast Tamer. Excited, he realized that he had now undergone a second career change, and the feeling was exhilarating. When he examined his system panel further, detailed information appeared. His name was displayed as Lin Han, his occupation listed as a Yushan scholar at second level with a hidden class. His current level was 10, with attributes showing 1,000 in strength, 900 in agility, 800 in spirit, and 730 in physique. His skill set included Living Soul Contract at level 1, Yushan Space at level 1, and Summoning Book at level 1. Along with the successful job change, new professional talent skills were unlocked. The first was Lightning Wings, which allowed him to fly for 10 minutes with a 1-hour cooldown. The second was Skill Copy, which granted the ability to temporarily copy and use a beast's skills for 5 minutes with a 2-hour cooldown. The third was Bloodline Reversion, enabling a beast's bloodline to revert to its ancestral form. The system then announced a second transfer reward, granting him the opportunity to choose one of 3 additional abilities. The first option was Fusion, allowing him to merge with a beast and unleash combined power. The second was Telepathy, enabling direct communication with beasts, improving their favorability and increasing the chances of successfully forming a contract. The third was Malicious Fluctuation, which could repel hostile creatures, humans included, within a certain range without cooldown. Overjoyed by the unexpected options, the protagonist realized these were entirely new abilities unlocked with his job change. Testing them out, he focused on Lightning Wings. His body lifted off the ground, and he found himself actually flying. The realization hit him with excitement. Flight was normally a skill that could only be learned through advanced skill books, yet he had unlocked it so early with his hidden class. Considering skill copy, he thought about the possibility of duplicating and using the abilities of his beast companion, i.e., even though the effect would only last 5 minutes. In a critical battle, that temporary advantage could easily decide the outcome. It was a powerful edge, and he was more than satisfied with the potential it offered. The protagonist deactivated his skill and turned his attention back to the system, carefully weighing his options. He considered the upgrade reward, thinking to himself that fusion seemed powerful, and telepathy could certainly improve combat, but there was one option that felt the most practical. At that moment, the system displayed the choices clearly before him. The first option was fusion, which allowed merging with a beast to unleash multiple times his basic power. The second was telepathy, enabling communication with beasts, improving their favorability, and raising the success rate of forming contracts. The third was malicious fluctuation, a skill that could detect malicious creatures, including humans, within a certain range without any cooldown. Seeing this, the protagonist grew excited. The ability to detect malicious intent nearby was essentially an automatic alarm. He thought about the mercenaries from earlier and realized that if he had possessed this skill then, he would have eliminated them long before they had the chance to act arrogantly. With a confident decision, he selected malicious fluctuation, confirming it without hesitation. Just as he made his choice, another notification appeared. A new mission had already been triggered. He wasn't surprised, though. After advancing to his second transformation, it was natural that he would now be tasked with contracting a second beast in order to test the effects of bloodline reversion. The mission details were clear. As a newly advanced second-level beast tamer, he was required to capture and bind a beast. The reward for completing this task would be 500 beast tamer points. Thinking ahead, the protagonist analyzed his current situation. His beast companion IE was strong in one-on-one combat, but its area of effect attacks were lacking. He reasoned that lightning-based attacks could cover this weakness, and if he could obtain a lightning beast, it would be the perfect balance. With that in mind, he decided it was time to pay a visit to Uncle Tion. Leaving the building, he smiled to himself, planning to both gather intelligence and sell off his loot. The scene then shifted to the VIP exchange room. An elderly man stared in shock at the enormous pile of loot before him and asked where the protagonist had managed to acquire so many treasures. Laughing lightly, the protagonist explained that he had simply run into a generous group of people who had kindly donated their belongings, and now he intended to sell everything. He asked Uncle Tion to help count the goods. Uncle Tion turned to 2 young girls assisting him and ordered them to tally up the items and calculate their prices. They quickly obeyed, setting to work. Watching them, the protagonist reflected inwardly. Although the Thunder Beast had dropped a fair amount of treasures, it was nothing compared to the wealth of the mercenary group. Fortunately for him, they had practically rushed forward to deliver their savings into his hands. Without their reckless move, he would never have earned so much so quickly. When the counting was complete, Uncle Tion returned to him and reported the results. The total value of the items came to 13 million Heaven Dragon coins, and he assured the protagonist that he would arrange for the transfer to his card immediately. After receiving the transfer, the protagonist thanked Uncle Tion and mentioned that he was also looking for a Thunder Attribute Beast. He asked if Uncle Tion had any recommendations. Taking the card from him, the old man paused to think, then suddenly recalled something. With excitement in his tone, he explained that news had spread of a high-quality Thunderbird appearing in the Thunder Forest near Yuzhou City a few days ago. He added further details, saying that the Thunderbird might carry an ancient bloodline. Many had already attempted to capture it, but all had failed. Hearing this, the protagonist grew excited and grabbed the old man by the shoulders, shaking him in eagerness. A Thunderbird with an ancient bloodline was exactly what he needed. He quickly asked if there was any more information. Uncle Tion shook his head, admitting that their intelligence network had no more details. However, he revealed that their exchange had purchased a Thunderbird feather. At his signal, a young girl brought forward a wooden box and opened it. Inside was a feather faintly glowing with electrical energy. The old man explained that this feather would react whenever it was close to the Thunderbird. The protagonist stepped closer, marveling at the item, and declared that he would take it. But before he could, Uncle Tion stopped him, reminding him that business was still business. If he truly wanted it, he would be given a friendly price, 1 million Heaven Dragon coins. The protagonist broke into a cold sweat. For that amount of money, he thought, he could have bought more than 10 powerful scrolls. He even muttered inwardly that the old man might as well just go rob people. Still, since this was the only lead he had to locating the Thunderbird, he reluctantly agreed. Awkwardly sweating, he confirmed he would pay the price. Uncle Tion thanked him for the patronage, and the deal was completed. Though it stung, the protagonist comforted himself as he held the wooden box. As long as the feather could make finding the Thunderbird more efficient, then 1 million was worth it. Sometime later, he entered the Thunder Forest. The area he found himself in was known as the Thunder Leopard Habitat, a bronze and silver level training ground recommended for levels 0 through 20. He recalled Uncle Tion's words. The feather would glow if he got within 10 meters of the Thunderbird. Opening the wooden box and staring at it, he realized the flaw in that logic. 10 meters was practically point-blank range. If he got that close, he would see the Thunderbird directly without needing a feather to guide him. Frustrated, he tossed the box to the ground, cursing it as a scam. After a moment, however, he picked it back up, reasoning that since he had already spent 1 million on it, he might as well use it. He then thought carefully about how to search for the Thunderbird, convincing himself that crossing the forest shouldn't be too difficult. A smile formed on his face. With Ai alone, he was already strong enough to run rampant in the Silver Zone. If he managed to collect another beast, he could potentially dominate the Golden Zone as well. Just then, his aunt Beast companion emerged, clearly displeased. She expressed her frustration and scolded him, accusing him of being a bad master for not being satisfied with her and still wanting to search for another beast. Hearing his companion's complaint, the protagonist only smiled and gently reassured her not to be angry. Just then, a desperate cry for help echoed through the forest. He turned his head in the direction of the voice and spotted a pink-haired girl running frantically, pursued by a beast. A glowing notification appeared before him, identifying it as a Thunder Leopard, level 19. The girl, while still running, recognized the danger and thought to herself that she wouldn't last much longer. Her name and details appeared as well. Sun Yinwei, level 10, Tracking Master. In her panic, she tripped over a tree root and fell to the ground. As the Thunder Leopard closed in on her, she accepted her fate, convinced she was about to die. But instead of pain, there was silence followed by a heavy impact. Opening her eyes slightly in disbelief, she realized she was still alive. The sound she had heard was the beast being kicked away. The protagonist had intervened, standing between her and the danger. He quickly asked if she was all right. She managed to say she was fine, though in her thoughts she was stunned. This man had sent a Thunder Leopard flying with a single strike. Who could he be? Still shocked, she warned him that Thunder Leopards weren't so easily dealt with, urging him to run. But the protagonist only smiled with confidence dismissing the threat. He hinted that the beast wouldn't be his problem to handle, as someone else would deal with it. True to his words, his ant beast appeared and clashed with the thunder leopard. Using its iron bone skill, the creature grew larger and more ferocious, resembling a true wild beast in combat. The protagonist observed the transformation with interest, impressed by the unexpected power his companion displayed. The girl, however, mistook the arrival of the ant beast for another hostile monster, her expression turning hopeless. The protagonist extended his hand to help her up, asking if she was hurt and if she could stand. Instead of answering, she panicked and pulled him away, insisting that any creature capable of suppressing a thunder leopard had to be at least level 20. She believed escape was the only option before it noticed them. At that moment, the ant beast defeated the thunder leopard and stood triumphantly atop its corpse, glaring at the girl with hostility for trying to drag its master away. The beast chirped angrily in protest. The girl began to explain herself, but the protagonist calmly reassured his companion instead, praising her for a job well done. He patted the ant beast affectionately and promised her a reward once they returned home. Witnessing this scene, Sun Yinwei was dumbfounded. None of it made sense to her. The protagonist then asked for her introduction. The ant beast shrank back down to its smaller form and perched on his shoulder. Turning to face her, he introduced himself as Lin Han, a beast tamer, and clarified that the ant beast was his contracted companion, nothing she needed to fear. Recognizing his identity, the girl exclaimed in excitement. She recalled rumors spreading in a nearby city about the awakening of a hidden class, beast tamer. Now it was clear to her that the rumors were true. Lin Han, however, calmly denied it, saying it wasn't a legend at all. As the girl approached, she smiled and remarked with curiosity. Beast tamers were known for relying on their contracted creatures, yet this one could fight so strongly with just his fists. She also asked what kind of ant he had. It was astonishing that it had been able to bite a thunder leopard to death. Before she could say more, the ant beast smacked her across the face. Shocked, she cried out. The protagonist quickly calmed his companion, telling her not to lose her temper. Still, the ant beast chirped angrily, warning the girl not to get too close to its master. The protagonist then turned back to the girl, asking why someone who didn't seem very strong would come to such a dangerous place. She introduced herself as Sun Yinwei and explained that she was here on a second-level mission. Unfortunately, her bad luck had landed her with a 4-star task, which had put her in this predicament. Out of curiosity, she asked why he was here. He thought for a moment before replying that his goal was the Thunderbird rumored to be in this forest. Hearing this, her eyes lit up with excitement. She said it was perfect because as a tracking master, she could help him find it as thanks for saving her life. The protagonist considered this in his mind. Though the tracking masterclass lacked combat ability, it excelled at locating targets. That could be very useful that he agreed to rely on her for this mission. They shook hands, both agreeing without hesitation. Still, Sun Yinwei cautioned him with a gentle smile. Her abilities were limited, and tracking would work better if they had an item tied to the Thunderbird. The protagonist took out the wooden box and revealed the feather. He asked her if it would work. She was immediately surprised. It was a Thunderbird feather, the very same kind that had been sold at an enormous price on the black market. Examining it carefully, she confirmed that the feather was perfectly preserved, which meant she could indeed lock onto the Thunderbird's location. But she warned that using her skill might damage the feather, so if he planned to sell it for money, it could be a waste. He only smiled and reassured her. To him, the feather was useless unless it served its purpose. If it broke, that was his responsibility. Sun Yinwei accepted his decision and began channeling her ability. Activating her tracking skill, object tracking, she focused on the feather. A streak of lightning burst forth from it, darting ahead like a guide. With excitement, she announced that she had found the Thunderbird's trail. As long as they followed the light, it would lead them to their target. Seeing this, the protagonist's own excitement rose. Without hesitation, he agreed, urging them to get moving. As they moved side by side through the forest, the protagonist suddenly halted, sensing danger ahead. He warned that a group of ferocious beasts was blocking their path. The girl, startled, asked what she should do. Nervously, she suggested they take a detour, even pressing closer to him as she did so. This irritated IE slightly, but before the tension grew, the protagonist decided there was no need to avoid the beasts. He summoned Ai, who immediately launched herself at the monsters. In moments, the enemies were annihilated. The system acknowledged the kill, rewarding him with experience, but instead of focusing on the numbers, the protagonist smiled, impressed by Ai's eagerness. Internally, he noted how she could overwhelm entire groups on her own, fully living up to his expectations. Yet, he also wondered why she seemed unusually irritable that day. When the battle ended, Ai proudly looked back at him, as if declaring the job done and awaiting his approval. The protagonist felt her excitement clearly, recognizing how much she sought his acknowledgement. They continued walking, and the girl looked at the remains in shock. She questioned if all the beasts had truly been slain by such a small ant. The protagonist confirmed calmly, remarking that the creature could easily handle such threats. Inside, he was pleased to realize he had advanced to level 11. His attributes had increased significantly, and he had gained additional points he could allocate as he wished. Just then, Ai shifted into her human form and abruptly pushed the girl away from her master. The protagonist laughed awkwardly at her behavior, lightly scolding her playfulness and telling her to return to her original form. Ai instantly obeyed her master's order and returned to her original size. From the ground, Sun Yinwei, the pink-haired girl, wiped the sweat from her face. At first, she thought they were being attacked by another ferocious beast, but upon seeing the protagonist calmly speaking with the ant girl, she realized it was just his companion. Dusting off her legs, she muttered to herself that she had been frightened for nothing. The protagonist then instructed Ai to stay in her smaller form, so she could move around more easily. Sun Yinwei, however, couldn't shake the awkward feeling that the little ant was deliberately targeting her. Meanwhile, Ai's eyes were full of hostility. In her mind, she swore that if this girl tried to seduce her master, she would rip her apart, though she promised herself not to kill her outright. Sun Yinwei, completely oblivious to the hostility, interpreted the look differently. To her, the ant seemed harmless and even adorable. Convinced it was her imagination, she grew excited and reached out to poke the small creature, eager to play with it. Inside, Ai was fuming. She found the girl unbearably annoying, but she restrained herself, knowing the other wouldn't survive a real attack. In desperation, she mentally cried out for her master to save her. The protagonist gave an awkward smile and reminded Sun Yinwei not to overdo it, warning her that Ai would lose her temper if provoked further. To redirect the situation, he pointed toward the forest, instructing Ai to clear the path ahead since more beasts were approaching. With that command, Ai rushed forward. Soon, a series of victories followed one after another. Thunder beetles, electric bees, and thunder steel pigs were all slain in succession. Each kill brought a surge of experience that rapidly advanced the protagonist's level. In quick progression, he climbed from level 12 all the way to level 15, his overall attributes increasing dramatically with each breakthrough, along with a large pool of additional points he could freely assign. Overwhelmed with joy, the protagonist felt tears well up. The rush of growth, the strength flooding into his body, it was exhilarating. At that moment, his updated status became clear. His name, Lin Han, was displayed with his occupation listed as a beast tamer who had already undergone a second awakening into a hidden job. He had reached level 15, with greatly boosted strength, agility, spirit, and physique. Although he carried no equipment, his arsenal of skills included the living soul contract, beast taming space, summoning beast taming, malice wave, lightning wings, and skill copy, all at their first level. On top of that, he still held a vast reserve of unassigned attribute points, ready to be allocated as he saw fit. Upon seeing his rapid growth, Lin Han reflected on his progress. In such a short time, he had already reached level 15. At this pace, he knew it would not be long before he would be ready to challenge a third-level mission. At the same time, Ai's own status became clearer. As a sky-horned ant, her race was classified as one of the ancient 10 evils. Her strength had risen to astonishing levels, far surpassing ordinary beasts. Her raw power, agility, spirit, and physique all towering around and above 2,000, with her physical resilience alone breaking 3,000. When Ai returned from her battles, Lin Han acknowledged her effort, telling her she had worked hard. Sun Yinwei, however, responded with mixed feelings. To her, it wasn't just hard work. Lin Han and Ai together had nearly destroyed the Thunder Forest in the process. Yet despite her complaints, excitement soon lit up her expression. She explained that with so many beasts already cleared, there was no longer any need to avoid danger. She could sense the Thunderbird's location directly ahead and urged them to move quickly. As Lin Han looked into the forest, his confidence faltered for a brief moment. He noticed Ai reacting uneasily, and this gave him pause. As an ancient beast herself, Ai rarely showed fear. Could it be that something even she dreaded was lurking ahead? Soon, the answer revealed itself. Perched on a branch high above was a majestic Thunderbird. Lin Han instantly recognized it, his heart racing. This creature was only level 13, yet the potential it carried was immense. If he could complete a contract with it, the game would be extraordinary. But before he could act, the Thunderbird spread its wings and took flight. Sun Yinwei grew alarmed. She pointed out the obvious disadvantage. Neither of them had the ability to fly, and once airborne, the Thunderbird would be impossible to catch. All their effort could have been for nothing. Lin Han, however, only smiled with confidence. In the next moment, he activated one of his unique skills, lightning wings. Brilliant arcs of electricity spread from his back, forming radiant wings of pure thunder. Sun Yinwei froze in disbelief, her eyes wide. Flight was supposed to be impossible for their kind, yet right before her, Lin Han had taken to the air. Soaring through the skies, Lin Han closed the distance to the Thunderbird. He called out to it, offering a contract, promising food and shelter if it chose to follow him. The Thunderbird looked back at him, startled by the proposal, and immediately darted away with a sharp cry. Lin Han sighed, a little thrown off by its reaction, but quickly gave chase. Rather than seeing it as an obstacle, he found the creature's defiance amusing. He shouted down to Sun Yinwei, telling her to wait below, and she agreed, watching anxiously from the ground. Closing in again, Lin Han extended his hand toward the bird. He tried to coax it, insisting that following him would only bring benefits. Yet the Thunderbird, unwilling to submit so easily, accelerated once more, slipping from his grasp. Annoyed, Lin Han pushed harder, but then the Thunderbird suddenly released its power, surrounding itself with a surge of violent thunder. Rather than being discouraged, Lin Han's excitement grew. He recognized its resolve. Unable to flee, it had chosen to face him head-on. That courage, he thought, was admirable. In response, Lin Han unleashed his own strength, colliding with the Thunderbird in a fierce clash of speed and lightning. With precision and force, he overpowered it and finally caught it by the neck, suppressing its resistance. The contract was sealed. Immediately, details about his new beast companion became clear to him. The Thunderbird belonged to the Blue Thunderbird branch at level 13. Its attributes were impressive for its rank, over 500 in strength, more than 700 in agility, and balanced spiritual and physical power as well. Lin Han couldn't help but smile. The capture had been difficult, but the reward was more than worth it. As Lin Han studied the Thunderbird's attributes, he quickly realized that despite its rarity, its level 13 stats were far inferior to those of the Skyhorned Ant. Just as he was about to dismiss the thought, the system presented him with a choice, whether to revert the Thunderbird to its ancestral form. A wave of realization struck him. He had almost forgotten the system's unique feature. With it, evolution wasn't a dream. Strength could be attained at will. Without hesitation, he chose to revert the Thunderbird 10 generations back. The transformation was immediate. The majestic bird shimmered with radiant lightning, reshaping itself into a humanoid form. At the same time, Lin Han became aware of its new state. It had successfully evolved into the Thunder Emperor, one of the ancient 10 evils, now at level 18. Its attributes had skyrocketed, agility alone surpassing 3,000. It had even gained devastating new skills, one that could call down unpredictable lightning strikes within a kilometer, and another that greatly enhanced its speed. Lin Han's lips curled into a confident smile. As expected of a true Thunder Beast, it had leapt 5 levels in one transformation. The Thunderstorm skill, in particular, was nothing short of a weapon of mass destruction. The Thunderbird, now in her humanoid form, approached him respectfully, addressing him as her master. But Lin Han's eyes were caught on something else. Her new form was striking, more developed even than Ai's, which left him momentarily shocked. This comparison instantly stirred tension. Ai stepped forward, glaring at the newcomer, and demanded to know who she thought she was to stand so close to her master. The Thunderbird retorted with disdain, boasting that she could swallow an ant like Ai in a single bite. Before the hostility could erupt, Lin Han intervened, positioning himself between them. He reminded Ai that she was the first to gain human form, which made her the elder sister. As such, she should show tolerance instead of hostility. Though clearly dissatisfied, Ai could only snort and fall silent. The Thunderbird, however, stepped closer to Lin Han, her eyes filled with anticipation. She asked him for a name. Lin Han thought carefully. She was a thunder-based bird, powerful and ancient. A fragment of an old poem came to mind, describing the formation of thunder at the dawn of creation, likened to the great drum of heaven and earth. Inspired, he bestowed upon her the name Tiangu. The bird girl lit up with joy at the sound of it, repeating her new name with delight and gratitude. Lin Han, observing her gentle and graceful demeanor, couldn't help but contrast it with the raw, destructive power of her thunderstorm skill. A part of him itched to see her abilities in action. Meanwhile, Sun Yinwei sat some distance away, muttering to herself. She had been waiting for Lin Han to return and was beginning to grow restless. Soon after, the group regrouped and shifted their focus to a new location, the barbarian camp. Standing at the edge of the encampment, Sun Yinwei expressed her doubts. Her mission required slaying the barbarian leader, but the challenge seemed insurmountable. She suggested they abandon the idea. Lin Han, however, smiled in response. She had helped him locate the Thunderbird, so naturally, he would help her complete her mission. Besides, it was the perfect opportunity to test Tiangu's strength. With that, he raised his hand toward the camp and commanded Tiangu to act. The bird girl rose into the sky, her presence radiating power as she hovered above the barbarian camp. Spreading her arms wide, she summoned her newfound strength. The skies darkened instantly as lightning gathered overhead. Tiangu unleashed her might, thunderstorm downpour. Bolts of lightning began to rain unpredictably across the camp. The barbarians below looked up in panic, realizing too late the destruction descending upon them. As Lin Han observed the barbarian camp beneath the storm, he realized just how weak the enemies were. With Tiangu's power, even holding back would be difficult. If she unleashed her storm at full force, he would probably need to beg the barbarians not to die too quickly. Still, he issued a clear order. She could fight as she pleased, but the leader was not to be killed. Sun Yinwei, staring into the crackling sky, couldn't even locate where the Thunderbird was among the lightning bolts. But Tiangu heard Lin Han's command and responded eagerly, landing on the battlefield with crackling energy. The barbarians shouted and scrambled to fight back, raising their bows in unison. Before they could release a single arrow, Tiangu blurred forward, seized one by the throat, and electrocuted him into submission. The pink-haired girl glanced at Lin Han in shock, realizing the Thunderbird had truly taken action. She began to suggest that they join in to help. After all, there were many enemies, but the words died on her lips. In a blink, Tiangu reappeared before them, dragging none other than the barbarian leader by the neck. With effortless strength, she hurled him to the ground at Lin Han's feet. Sun Yinwei could hardly believe it. The leader, her mission target, had been subdued almost instantly. Lin Han praised Tiangu for her efficiency, then calmly handed Sun Yinwei a dagger. He told her that if she struck the final blow, her mission would be complete. Nodding, she took the weapon, finished the task, and watched as the confirmation of her success appeared before her. Relieved, she turned and bowed respectfully to Lin Han, thanking him sincerely. Without his help, completing such a mission would have been impossible. She explained that her home was nearby, so her work was done, and asked if he would like to stroll around Yuzhou City with her. Lin Han only smiled and declined, reminding her that she had helped him find the Thunderbird, so her thanks was unnecessary. They would certainly meet again one day. Hearing this, Sun Yinwei's heart lifted. She silently hoped their paths would cross again in the future. Some time later, Lin Han continued his journey through the forest, his two beasts at his side. He reflected inwardly on his fortune. He had captured a second contracted beast in less than half a day. With such progress, it was time to carefully plan out his next leveling route. Just then, his phone rang. The caller ID displayed a familiar name. Fatty Long. Lin Han raised a brow. For his friend to call at this moment, it had to be something important. He answered, half joking that if Long wanted to treat him to a meal, he'd rush over immediately. On the other end, Fatty Long dismissed the joke and said it was serious business. He asked Lin Han if he had ever heard of the Illusion Realm, a virtual dimension constructed by the Imperial military. Unlike reality, it didn't grant experience points, but it simulated battlefields and generated ferocious beasts for awakened ones to fight. It was, Fatty explained, a place for training techniques and honing skills without real-world risk. The scene shifted to a private room where Lin Han sat with Fatty Long. His friend leaned forward with pride, explaining how many had struggled for a chance to enter the Illusion Realm. Through his father's connections, however, he had managed to secure a spot for Lin Han. Hearing this, Lin Han thought to himself that although Tiangu and IE excelled in individual combat, their coordination as a team was far from ideal. This realm would be the perfect opportunity to train them in synergy. For a brief, embarrassing moment, he imagined both transformed into human form, clinging to him affectionately, vowing to serve their master well. The thought was so overwhelming he almost gave himself a nosebleed. If their cooperation truly improved, well, the possibilities were endless. Breaking his thoughts, Fatty Long reminded him that he had already sent the address to his phone, so Lin Han could enter the Illusion Realm whenever he was ready. Lin Han barely responded, distracted as he called someone else, politely expressing gratitude to an elder who had helped him many times before. Fatty waved the thanks away, saying that brothers never needed to stand on ceremony. Just remember brotherhood when success arrived. Lin Han simply chuckled and agreed. The scene then shifted again to Lin Han's bedroom. When he awoke, IE, in her human form, lay draped across his chest, greeting him cheerfully and asking if he had slept well. Lin Han groaned, overwhelmed so early in the morning, only for Tiangu to suddenly hug him tightly as well, insisting he return to sleep. Their combined weight nearly smothered him, and he wondered whether this was what people meant by sweet trouble. The moment soured as IE protested angrily that the master couldn't breathe under Tiangu's embrace. Tiangu retorted with teasing cruelty, suggesting that the master could breathe just fine with IE since she was so small. Offended, IE snapped back that Lin Han himself had acknowledged her as the elder sister. Tiangu only laughed, mocking her intelligence instead. Lin Han watched with disappointment. Despite their mature appearances, they were as childish as squabbling sisters. He realized he would have to prioritize training their cooperation sooner rather than later. Later, the scene moved to the Illusion Realm Experience Center. A staff member led Lin Han through the facility, confirming his identity and explaining the process. He was directed toward a sleek hibernation capsule where he would access the virtual world. The staff further explained that inside, he could select challenges of varying difficulty based on his personal level, and records set within the simulations would yield corresponding rewards. Lin Han considered the explanation he'd just received. Since this entire setup was backed by the military, he reasoned the rewards wouldn't be anything ordinary. Stepping into one of the sleek capsules, he lay down as the attendant wished him a pleasant experience. Inside, his consciousness was scanned. A sequence of checks confirmed his identity, name, occupation, and current level, before suggesting a dungeon suited for someone of his ability. The system recommended the silver difficulty level. Without hesitation, Lin Han mentally chose it, calling out to IE and Tiangu. Both of his contracted beasts responded eagerly in their own ways, brimming with anticipation. The virtual interface displayed a loading sequence, percentages ticking upward until finally reaching completion. In the next instant, Lin Han found himself standing in the illusionary realms arena. 3 wolves materialized before him. With a wry smile, he recognized them as familiar low-level opponents he had faced before. Before he could act, Ai leapt forward, determined to prove herself. Declaring her intent to outshine Tiangu, she crushed all 3 wolves in an instant. After the easy victory, she turned toward the Thunderbird with a smug expression, clearly taunting her. But more enemies appeared behind Tiangu, an entire pack of wolves of the same level. Without even looking back, the bird girl dismissed Ai's arrogance as childish and unleashed her thunderous power. Lightning exploded outward, annihilating the wolves in one devastating strike. She then coldly remarked that this was what true strength looked like. Lin Han sighed and tried to calm them, reminding both that they were one family and should support each other. But Ai pouted and said she couldn't get along with that stinky bird, while Tiangu retorted that they were too different to get along anyway. As they bickered, more wolves spawned, some even appearing above Lin Han himself. Irritated, he smashed one aside with his bare fist, muttering in frustration that even the dungeon monsters seemed to be picking on him. His sudden act shocked both companions. They rushed to his side, panicked, asking if he was hurt. Ai blamed herself for not protecting him better, while Tiangu admitted fault as well, guilt washing over both for letting jealousy distract them from their duty. Silently, they vowed to take the battle seriously from this point onward. Before they could regain their composure, a new warning spread across the arena. The third wave of beasts was on its way, this time composed of monsters edging toward level 20. The system emphasized that while no real harm would come to his physical body, the simulation transmitted pain directly, urging him to abandon the trial if it became unbearable. Lin Han, however, only smiled with confidence. He thought to himself that even many rare frontline professions would struggle at this level of difficulty, but for him, it was the perfect challenge. One of the wolves lunged straight at Lin Han. In that instant, he reminded himself of a core truth. The greatest weakness of a beast tamer was his limited personal combat strength. That, after all, was one of the reasons he had come to the illusionary realm, to sharpen this very shortcoming. He met the charging wolf head-on, his fists slamming into it and dropping the beast instantly. Frustration laced his thoughts as he declared that he would make up for this weakness himself. His companions, watching him fight with his own strength, couldn't hide their excitement. Lin Han, enjoying that moment of raw power, admitted inwardly that putting all his free attribute points in his strength had been worth it. More wolves began to gather, howling toward the sky as though to summon reinforcements. Lin Han narrowed his eyes, knowing the true battle was only just beginning. Without hesitation, he commanded his beasts. Ai was ordered to unleash her berserk state, while Tiangu was told to activate her swift movement ability. Though reluctant, Ai accepted the order, muttering that she would set aside her dislike for the Thunderbird for the sake of her master. Tiangu, in turn, assured Lin Han that she too would not be a burden. Lin Han's confidence grew as he watched them prepare. He smirked, curious to see whether the so-called Wind Wolf Kings could withstand Ai's strength or Tiangu's speed. The outcome, he believed, was inevitable. The enemy would be crushed. Outside the Illusionary Realm Experience Center, the scene shifted. Feng, Lin Han's longtime rival, exited with his entourage. His companions praised his performance, marveling at how his giant sword had crushed entire groups of beasts in one sweep. One of them regretted that Su Ting hadn't been there to witness it. Another eagerly suggested teaming up with her in the future. Su Ting, the aloof black-haired girl among them, coldly declined the offer, insisting she preferred to fight alone. Feng, watching her, sneered inwardly. To him, she was like a flower set apart from others, untouchable and aloof, but he was determined to pluck her one day. Nearby, a group of onlookers had gathered in front of the public notice board. Their shocked exclamations drew attention as they pointed to the latest progress update. The display showed a participant named Lin Han advancing through the silver-level dungeon at record-breaking speed, already reaching the final stage in just under 9 minutes. Speculation rippled through the crowd. Some wondered if this Lin Han was being secretly trained by a powerful family. A girl, her eyes widening with interest, guessed aloud that it might be the very same beast tamer from their school. Feng scoffed at the idea, dismissing Lin Han as a poor boy unworthy of such a place, insisting it must simply be someone with the same name. But before long, the notice board updated again. The record had been officially refreshed, completion time, 9 minutes and 8 seconds. The name of the new record holder, Lin Han. The girl who had defended him earlier looked at the board in awe. So, it really was him, she whispered to herself, half shocked and half thrilled, realizing just how strong Lin Han had become. Inside the simulation, Lin Han stood drenched in sweat, breathing hard. At last, it was over. The final notification confirmed his successful clearance and announced him as the new record holder. His reward was granted, a skill called Vine Thorn. The explanation detailed how it could summon thorny vines across a wide radius to bind enemies, with the added effect of paralysis. The ability would last 5 minutes with a cooldown of 20. As his consciousness began to withdraw from the illusionary realm, Lin Han examined the glowing skill book in his hand. Satisfaction washed over him. The rewards here were no disappointment. With a faint smile, he resolved that next time he would challenge himself further and step into the gold level dungeon. That's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this manhwa. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you either in a new manhwa recap or in the next episode of this one. Until then, take care and bye-bye.